Aguilar.
Here.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Here.
Commissioner Howell.
Here.
Commissioner Nicely.
Here.
Chairman Coleman.
Here. Commissioner Mass is going to lead us in prayer, and Commissioner Howell will lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
Dear Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the ability, Lord, to come together and discuss matters of the county, Lord. Pray for wisdom in this meeting today. Pray for discernment, Lord. And Lord, I just pray that you would protect everyone in this building. And I pray for all the residents of Lapeer County, too, that you would protect them. And Lord, help us all to do what is right, to glorify you in everything we do. Bless our time, we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for coming to the meeting this morning. Do we have any additions to the agenda?
Chairman, I would move if we add the animal control ordinance specifically to be assigned to the policy committee.
And then maybe discussion after department head?
Yes.
Okay.
Chairman, I'd like to add the revised committee assignment list that will be passed out by you here to the agenda before public time.
All those in favor of the additions and the agenda as proposed with the additions, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carried. Okay, brings us to consideration of the draft minutes from the July 13th committee of the whole meeting. Do we have a motion?
Motion approved, draft minutes as presented.
Support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, distribution of and review of overnight travel requests and grant applications and budget amendments are coming around. If anybody has any questions, please let us know. That brings us to department head updates. Are there any department heads that would like to give an update this morning? Moses?
Commissioners. So yeah, just a couple of things I want to state. A couple questions that came from the public and just a couple things I want to clarify. As the county administrator, I do not have the power to dismiss, censure, and penalize a commissioner. You guys are elected officials. You are elected by the people. I am the administrator of the county to run the operations of the county. I do have the ability to speak with you, as I have. We have a good working relationship here in my 6th week. I'm able to provide information to you that if it's necessary, and you're able to request information from me as well. But beyond that, that's my scope of power, so I just want to make that clear. As county administrator, my job is to oversee the operations of the county. I can make decisions as to employment or status of that employment of department heads and employees, but beyond that, I have no influence when it comes to commissioners. Finally, as I said, this is my 6th week here, and in my 3rd week, I asked my staff, do we have a social media policy? And I was told that we do not. I was surprised. At that point, we got in touch with our attorneys and started the conversation putting together a social media policy, which should be in place within a couple weeks or sooner. That policy will basically give guidelines to department heads and employees on what they can say and do on social media related to county business. Again, that will be something I will share with the 7 of you, but it's not something that you are obliged to follow. So I just wanted to make that clear. Once that social media policy is put together, I will let you know.
Thank you. Any other department heads like to give an update this morning?
Yeah. Good morning, commissioners. Where's the sheriff? I wanted to thank the sheriff for introducing the CMH staff to Alice. Thanks to Sending Sergeant Brady, Deputy Johnson, Deputy Salisbury. We did Alice training, which stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. I had to write it down myself. It was absolutely the best training we've had in terms of dealing with active shooters ever. Our staff got a lot out of it. It was very informative, very interactive, very hands-on, and thank you. our staff feel much more comfortable should the situation arise.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other department heads like to give an update this morning?
Good morning. Just a few things I wanted to draw to your attention. The first of which I'm happy to report, we've had 3 jury trials in the last 2 weeks. Things are going very well on the circuit court. We had trials in both Judge Nolan's courtroom and Judge Hodges' courtroom, 2 at the same time last week. If you've never participated in a jury trial or witnessed one in Judge Hodges' courtroom in particular, it is incredibly difficult to do because you have barely enough seating for the 12 jurors that are there. And then if you need an alternate, which we always try to have an alternate juror, and typically we have 14, we can accommodate that in Judge Nolan's courtroom. However, Judge Hodges' courtroom is so much smaller, we run into the issue that we can't have an alternate juror, so it's kind of risky business. The other issues that are presented, challenges, is how we display evidence and display exhibits using a monitor similar to the one you have here. The courtroom there is so small that it's difficult for everyone in the courtroom to see what's being discussed and presented. So one of the ideas that I have is to utilize the historic courthouse and utilize some technology upgrades for that building, because that is our largest courtroom. And it's still touted as the oldest functioning courthouse in the state. And it wouldn't be all the time, but it would be times where we had a jury trial in Judge Nolan's courtroom, because that's our primary criminal docket. Most of the jury trials are going forward on a criminal case in his courtroom. What we do, though, is we double book them. We schedule these things out in advance, so we get these situations sometimes pop up, and that's what happened a week before, where we had 2 jury trials commencing at the same time. We do that because the judges have been great about helping me move old cases. I'm happy to report also that we're just darn close to getting to 2020 cases now. We've pretty much got most of the older ones. I think there's 1 or 2 outliers that are older than that we have trial dates for this fall. They're coming up, but I'm happy to report by the end of the year, we should have that backlog caught up to 2020. So you can still see that presents a problem. We're still about 3 years behind. The judges have been very cooperative with accommodating some of these trials when we've asked them to, and hold the dates to keep them going. So that's just food for thought I wanted to share with you all. I think that I can come up with some money to fund that technology upgrade that we would need there. But that's just food for thought. We'll maybe talk about that at a future time, but I just wanted to plant the idea on that today. The next item is, it's been brought to my attention that there was a potential violation of the Open Meetings Act. I've investigated this issue. I will render a written opinion on this. As you all probably know, the statute directs that alleged violation to the Attorney General or the prosecuting attorney. So by Tuesday, I will have a written opinion on that. Next thing, I'm just going to go right into my agenda items because they're pretty brief. I wasn't supposed to be here today. I was supposed to be on a family vacation. So I'm going to try to run through this pretty quickly. If you have any questions, please ask. But I am going to depart as soon as I'm finished here. I apologize for that. The first of which is the 4E grant. The 4E grant in the state of Michigan is through the Department of Health and Human Services. This is a grant that has been in place in our office for many, many years. And it involves all the neglect abuse cases. So neglect abuse is a civil case, technically. These are the cases where we are pursuing termination of a parent's rights for either neglecting or abusing their child. That's a renewal. And I'm happy to report, too, that the revenues, the amount that my office has been billing the state to do that on the state's behalf and represent DHHS in court, those revenues are going up because we're actually doing the work, handling the cases properly. I probably be one of the best prosecutors in the state for handling those types of cases. Danielle Kassan is her name, and she's come to us early last year from another prosecutor's office, which she brings a wealth of experience. She's an absolute expert on these cases. And so that's a critical revenue stream for our office. The downside of not approving that grant, though, is this. The Attorney General's office handles these cases, or they contract with some other attorney that may have not any interest at all about the residents of Lapeer County involved in pursuing those cases. So it's important work. contracting with the state for those kind of things, and if it weren't for the importance of that kind of work and having someone that's in our community that cares about our residents involved in that, that's a risk that I don't really want to think about. I think it's important to renew that one. So I'm asking for a renewal on that. And then the other one, the other grant through the state of Michigan involves the Crime Victims' Rights Act. And that funds 2 full-time positions in my office. And the victims' rights coordinators in our office, those advocates, are the first line of contact with our office and victims of crime. And it's a statutory duty under the Crime Victims' Rights Act. And the state just reimburses for those employees' time, and that's the work that they do. They interact with victims, tell them about court dates, coordinate meetings with prosecutors to discuss cases, keep them updated on everything. It's important work. Without those 2 positions, we would have to find the funding locally here in our own budget to try to keep those positions because they are critical positions for our office. So those are the two items of business I have before the board. If you have any questions on them, I'm happy to entertain those at this time.
Commissioner Hall?
Yes, as you know, no doubt, we've had some extended discussion about grant acceptance in the county. You're dealing with a contract and a grant here you're presenting to us. Do you have any concerns about any of the conditions attached to the contract or the grant that should cause us not to approve?
No, these are long-standing grants and contracts, so I don't have any concern over them. I've read them. It's very dull reading. The one is probably 26 pages, I think. So bring a fresh cup of coffee if you intend to read that one. But I don't have any concerns over them. There's another grant coming up for renewal that I'm going to be presenting along with Mr. Joseph here in the near future, and that involves 4D, which is the state contracting with my office and the friend of the court to get parenting time and child support obligations entered for parties that are on state systems. So that one did involve some concerns, and that's why you haven't seen it yet, because that one involved an annual IT security audit. And everybody said that who's going to pay for all that? Right now we're in compliance, and I think it's a 3-year term where they do these IT security audits, and that's kind of normal business right now. But so that grant is being rewritten to make it to eliminate that 1-year annual audit provision. And basically the state told everyone that, hey, we're not going to enforce this. And it's like, well, why are we having it in there? It's part of the contract. Get it out of there. So they are working with us on that. So I don't think there's anything of concern on either of the items presented today that I have.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Any other department heads like to give an update this morning?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just wanted to draw everyone's attention to the fact that the health department does have a newsletter on our website, have had since March, switched over from the old COVID newsletter to a general that has a lot of additional information for the public. So that is on the health department webpage, but I also wanted to let you know that the public health is celebrating its 150th anniversary. And you will find on our website now a link that says 150 years, and it will give you the last 50 in a timeline. So just letting you know that we're celebrating our anniversary.
Thank you. Any other department heads like to give an update this morning?
Morning, Commissioners. I'm Joseph, Lapeer Co Board COW. I just wanted to bring to your attention that in July, our office sent out 56 amnesty letters to clients who had outstanding bench warrants. Of those letters that we sent, we received $5,300 in addition to our normal efforts for support enforcement. We will be conducting bench warrant sweeps in conjunction, and I will thank the sheriff for his office's assistance to work with us this upcoming September. We'll be making contact with individuals who do not avail themselves of those amnesty letters, and if anyone, a family member or themselves has an outstanding bench warrant, contacting our office would be a good thing to do now. We can work with them, we can work with people if they work with us. I will also bring it to your attention, as Mr. Miller indicated, I have a CRP or cooperative reimbursement program contract that will be up for renewal shortly, but as Mr. Miller said, it is undergoing revisions to remove the annual security audit and instead put back into place the 3-year security audit, which is the normal. With that, I'd entertain any questions. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Any other department heads like to give an update this morning?
Good morning, Rachel Horton, with your. Relax, guys, while we're waiting. In light of recent events between my department and this Board of Commissioners, I do feel that I should direct you all correctly. To be completely transparent, I remind everyone in the audience, as I often do, that Commissioner Zender is a relation to me. Luckily for him, I am his daughter. I was a county employee before he was elected official. It's never been a secret. It was acknowledged when he was running for election and discussed again before I was promoted. Typically, I am not a boastful person. It is not in my nature. But I would like to provide my background so that you all can better understand me and how I became the chief of animal control, so that you can understand just how far we've come. I was born and raised in Lapeer County. I showed livestock, Lapeer County 4-H. I was an active member of Lapeer County FFA. The beauty of those programs is they teach you about animals, business, public speaking, and parliamentary procedure at an early age. I attended Michigan State where I majored in animal science and business. I have many internships to supplement my education, including a merchandising internship with Nabisco, an internship with the Romeo Veterinary Hospital, another internship with the City Veterinary Clinic, and lastly, just before I graduated, an internship with the House of Representatives under former State Representative Ken Boyke, who ironically is a Republican. After graduation, I debated which field I wanted to enter. I loved the feedstuffs industry. I enjoyed the science behind feed ration calculations and marketing animal products. I also enjoyed veterinary science. I ended up taking a job in Illinois with IDEX. They are the largest veterinary diagnostic company in the world. I'm a certified hematology technician. So, in the state of Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, and Illinois, when you take your pet to the vet and they extract blood, urine, fecal, or tissue, it's overnighted to a lab in Illinois, where I worked. I can read a blood smear in 30 seconds. I can tell you if the dog has reactive lymphocytes or if they're heartworm positive. When my husband and I decided to move back to Michigan, to be closer to family, I took a job in North Carolina today as a substitute teacher and agri-science assistant. I got to teach children about agriculture and vet medicine, things that I am passionate about. I also got to learn grant writing for their program, which is very successful. North Carolina FFA has been repeatedly a program with high honors and is one of the largest FFA programs in the state of Michigan. As the first school year began to close, I got a call from Baby, who at that time was the chief of animal control, also a former county commissioner. The same man that redid all the kennels in that building said it didn't feel like a jail, and was instrumental in creating a no-kill philosophy. Dave asked if I would consider working at animal control. He asked that I did it this summer. If I hated it, I could always go back to teaching. If I enjoyed it, I can work in the county that I loved. My first summer in the school was one for the books. They wouldn't order me a uniform until I had completed my 90 days. Okay? All summer long, I followed AC officers in jeans and a tall print t-shirt he found in an old locker because I literally had to earn my uniform. And it was brown, and it was like a Girl Scout. All the animal control vehicles at the time were unmarked. We had a van and a plastic dog box. We used magnets that had the courthouse logo on the side of them, so they would blow off in the wind when we were going down the road. So I literally looked like a delivery driver when I approached people's homes. All 3 officers shared one office. We had 2 metal desks, 1 phone, and 1 computer. Not a single document in animal control was digital. We use a printing company to produce all of our forms in bulk. When I took over the payables for the department, I got a school desk, and it was like this big. It was another year before we arranged the office enough to fit 3 desks, 3 computers, and 3 phones. Staff at Animal Control had a lot of discussions about what we wanted to change. We really wanted to improve community perception. People didn't like dealing with Animal Control. The mentality towards our staff was hostile. We could not grow our resources and adopt out more animals without a supportive community. So we changed the way we address the community. We literally changed how we approach people and talk to them. Instead of being confrontational, we practiced de-escalation techniques, and we changed how we extract information while on welfare checks. We made it clear that animals are able to straightforward and go up for adoption. We then started our Facebook page. We had no social media presence. All of our adoptions were just people that happened to walk in the door. We didn't post any stray animals. We didn't advertise. We didn't offer any information to our community. We just hoped that people walking through the door were serious about adopting and dropping off dog food, because we needed it. I showed Dave the sheer magic of Google Docs. And then I spent hundreds of hours recreating forms and spreadsheets that could be accessed electronically. And now every document in my program is available on Google Drive because I created it. We sent letters to veterinarians, groomers, kennels, dog trainers seeking support. We worked hard to communicate our procedures for stray holds, bites, quarantines, rabies testing, euthanasia, and more. We wrote grants. We were finally awarded vibe traps, new catch poles, bite gloves, even money for veterinary care. We started an Amazon wish list. Our community helped support us if they desired, because my food budget at that shelter is $900, which is not enough money per year to feed all the mouths that we feed. We improved the quality of the staff. We made sure to hire people that had extensive animal backgrounds. We changed our adoption process. Adoption used to be a bidding war. The day that animals came off stray holds, we were attracting breeders and dog players that wanted to adopt from us because our animals are cheap. We now have the lowest return rate of adoptions that we have ever had. We started staying, neutering, and vaccinating animals before adoption. My team has started 2 nonprofits, and this year alone, we have raised more than $40,000 this county does not give us for veterinary care. We did all of that, and then Dave decided to retire. And his timing was awful. I was 8 months pregnant. I was still in the field chasing cows and stray dogs, and he wanted to retire. Which meant I was very pregnant, and I had to decide, do I want to be promoted? Do I want to leave my field and be a mom? Do I want to leave my chances in someone else's hands and walk away from all of it? So I interviewed for the chief position. 2 weeks after having an emergency C-section, I came into this courthouse and I interviewed. Quentin Bishop was county administrator. The county administrator is my direct boss. Quentin put together a panel of 5 interviewers that consisted of the undersheriff, who was then Jeremy Howe, Doreen Clark, the administrative assistant, Jackie Arnold, chief of finance, and Dave Eady, the former chief of animal control. They asked how I would increase revenue streams for animal control and to present a 5-year plan. I knocked my interview out of the park. It was unanimous, and I was promoted before I left the building. I beat out all the other candidates that interviewed before me, and I was interviewed last. Had nothing to do with who my dad was. I returned to work as chief when my daughter was 7 weeks old. I breastfed in the bathroom because it's the only place in the building that I could do so. For the first 7 months of my job, I actually made less money being promoted to a salaried position because I could not work overtime like I could as an officer. I worked long nights, weekends, and holidays in that building. I think my whole family, including him, come around Christmas to walk dogs and clean tunnels with me. My family, including my dad, helped lay the birth patio that is outside of that building. I advocate for the animals and residents of Lapeer County every single day. I sent you all a draft of ordinances. I invited you to seek dialogue with me. Not the first draft that I sent you. Actually, I've been working on those drafts since October of 2022 with the Lapeer County prosecutor. Instead of scheduling meetings and working together, I got feedback from 2 of you. Thank you, Commissioner Hamilton, and and Commissioner Howell. It is much appreciated. Firm gives a packet. This packet detailing the common statutes for animal control and where you can find them. Details procedures for straying and finding animals in Michigan, and also details what animal control is supposed to do and what authorities we have. So before you accuse me of violating your constitutional rights, I suggest you do your homework. Read the current laws, familiarize yourselves. I did not pull that language out of thin air. Many of the ordinances we have been around longer than I have been alive. I did not create them. They're already in effect. Yes, they are outdated, which is why I sought to update them with you. The language I provided was approved by our general counsel, Lapeer Co Prosecuting Attorney John Miller. My mission has always been to educate, reduce animal cruelty, and better the people of this county. People in Deerfield fighting a pack of aggressive dogs need a vicious dog ordinance. They have come before you and said so. Emergency responders deserve to know where exotic animals are. You owe it to my staff to protect them every single day that they are on the job, instead of inciting violence against my department. Do better and do your job so I can do mine. Thank you. Have a great day. Please contact me with questions.
Any department heads like to give an update this morning? Okay, that brings us to Commissioner Howell's amendment to add the animal control discussion to the agenda.
In order to facilitate the discussion about this, I'm going to move that the proposed animal control ordinance be referred to our policy and procedures committee for review and work. I'm the chairman of that committee. I've done a fair amount of ordinance work. I think a lot of this could get resolved in a committee session. It really isn't ready, in my opinion, for the full board of commissioners. Anyway, my motion is to refer it to the policy and procedures committee.
I'll support that. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carried to move the animal control ordinance to policies and procedures. That brings us to chairman, a revised chairman committee appointments list, which we can pass around. Any questions on the revised list or a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the list as provided, revised list as provided by the chairman of committee assignments.
Is there a motion? Any discussion? Okay, seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, that brings us to our first public time. Is there anybody in the public who would like to address this board today? Just a reminder for those that have not been here, there's green sheets on the corner table where you just state your name, where you're from. And then when you come up to the podium, just state your name and what township or what city you're from.
Okay.
And there's a 3-minute limit on public time, so if there's a timer that will go off at 3 minutes.
Good morning, Jennifer Van Dam, Private Township. I'm here today because I'm deeply disturbed.
Yep.
I'm deeply disturbed by the actions of the animal control chief. She's been to a few meetings, and it's been my concern that she wants to turn animal control into more of a police agency, which I don't feel is proper for ordinance enforcement. She proposed some changes that people were concerned about regarding violating their rights, and when some of the commissioners recognized the potential violations, It appeared that she refused to follow the process and instead violated the trust of her employers, started a social media smear campaign, and wrongfully accused commissioners of violating the Open Meetings Act. I'm thankful for our commissioners who research and critically think about all aspects of the ordinances and refuse to bow to public pressure. I'm disappointed with Commissioner Zender for supporting the wrongful actions of his daughter instead of the citizens of Lapeer who elected him to his position. His actions on social media yesterday were meant to inflame the situation. I think it would have been better to abstain. Commissioner Zender clearly has a conflict of interest and should recuse himself of discussion and votes regarding animal control. Rachel Horton, in my opinion, has shown the lack of professionalism, poor judgment, disrespect for her employers and property owners, and a lack of understanding of government overreach. She should be removed from her position of Chief of Lapeer County Animal Control. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public like to comment this morning?
Hi, I'm Paula Alfonsi from Elmont Township. I'm here in support of Rachel. Rachel was hired to do this job as chief of the animal shelter. She is a very capable, educated woman. She is shown her professional abilities and knowledge in many situations. She and her crew have pulled this shelter together and continued the hard work of the Davy. They have created an awesome example of how a shelter should be run. Rachel has proven herself over and over again, and now apparently she has hit a nerve with something. She attempted to introduce a very well thought out plan, a couple of them. My understanding is she was putting it on the table for perfecting it, answering questions, and perhaps to educate a few of you to the existing dangers in the real world. This plan would help to protect herself, her employees, the police, and really everyone in Lapeer County. Because really, isn't that part of her job description? Each and every one of you are elected to sit here and make decisions for the health and well-being of our community. Apparently, several of you chose not to question, not to perfect, or even hear her out. It turned political, even power-hungry, Gestapo-like accusations flew. How ridiculous. I've worked with the animal world for more than 50 years. I've worked side by side with veterinarians. I've witnessed the handling of monkeys, snakes, and even an elephant. We used to have a pet lion in Elmont. Who knows what happened to it? We used to have, I've experienced vicious dogs myself. I've had friends mauled by some of these precious pets that are allowed to be kept. In 2014, let's not forget the mauling and the killing of Craig Stitzma, who died in the middle of Thompson Road. He was attacked by two vicious dogs while jogging. Those dogs had been reported to by the neighbors prior to his death. Perhaps if a vicious dog law was implemented and a responsible chief of animal control was in place, perhaps it may have saved Craig. Our police are called into numerous situations where it might be nice to know what's inside that house besides the person. Exotic animals require special care and handling. I believe in being proactive, not reactive. I hope all of you can calm down and really look at the big picture here. Let Rachel do her job, the job you hired her for, to protect the health, safety, and welfare of everyone in Lapeer County. I hope you can go forth and put your energy toward what is right for our community.
Anyone else from the public like to address the board this morning?
Good morning. My name is Erica, and I'm here today to show support for the Animal Control Department, since I learned firsthand how underappreciated and overworked the staff is. A common occurrence as an animal control officer is a lax in laws or ordinances regarding animal welfare or muddy verbiage in the ordinances as they are written. When you spend hours investigating a complaint and compiling a report, only to find there's no way to hold people responsible for various forms of irresponsible pet ownership, or only to have it thrown out in court. As a commissioning board who evidently holds not increasing county budget or growing departments to a high importance, why wouldn't you want ordinances to be revised to better allocate the time and resources you are already funding? These revised ordinances are a matter of safety not only for the public, but for the staff of law enforcement, aka peace officers, for those that don't know, that's an interchangeable term. Did you know that in Michigan, other than bears, big cats, and wolves, you can legally own exotic non-native animals of any species without any permit?
If you're wondering why this is an issue, try being me about a year ago. I was called after hours by Central Dispatch to locate a non-native venomous rattlesnake that sent its owner to the hospital. I responded to this call by myself with virtually no details because the incoherent man called 911 for himself en route to the hospital. I didn't know if the snake was outside or inside, contained or uncontained, and I had no training, equipment, or resources available to assist me. Why? Because we were unprepared and didn't know that venomous snakes were not only being kept, but being bred in our county. During my time at Animal Control, I also walked blind into homes with aggressive monkeys, straying pet foxes, and a kangaroo in the roadway, just to name a few. For those of you who clearly never worked in a helping profession, compassion fatigue is not just a woke snowflake term. It's an actual medical condition causing what is known as secondary traumatic stress disorder, meaning though you're not experiencing the trauma directly, you bear witness to another experiencing trauma. As a shelter worker, this is something you experience daily. And though witnessing cruelty and neglect of animals is an everyday occurrence in this field, the trauma absorbed each day isn't always as obvious as a starved, beaten, molested, or abandoned animal. It's also caring for animals that you must see every single day stuck in a cramped, overcrowded, loud, and stressful facility, and watching them mentally and physically deteriorate. It's traumatic for the animals and traumatic for those working for peanuts to help them. Not only do shelter workers suffer daily in the work they do, but they also deal with the public's total disregard and criticism of their work. It is downright revolting that those responsible for policy making and long-range outcomes of that same department contribute to this disregard with muddled conversations in a group text about ordinances that are already in existence, like license sales, and proposed ordinances they clearly don't have the brain power to understand. Thank you for having that conversation and proving to your community just how much trust you should have in your positions. I'm eager to see how you correct the stark mishandling of your egos.
Anyone else in the public like to comment this morning?
I have a personal experience in regards to these dog attacks that you guys are so blasé in disregarding your responsibility to our community as elected officials. In my opinion,
Could you state your name and your township?
I am so apologize. My name is, I'm not used to public speaking, but this is important to me. My name is Judith Honey. I live in North Branch in Deerfield Township, and I have been going to the township with my concerns about vicious dogs since December, when we had 2 dogs come onto our property and brutally murder 5 goats that were safely contained in their pens. Broke my son's heart to hear a 13-year-old boy sob, and it was just the epitome of the word heartbroken. And to see what those dogs did, if it happened to one of your pets or somebody in your family, you guys would not be so blasé and joking about and disregarding the need for a stronger ordinance. We have been begging for this. I've been to multiple meetings in Deerfield where people have had a gentleman that had dogs above the limit that he was allowed, vicious pit bulls that were repeatedly allowed to roam, and attacked children and pinned them against trees, and those people begged for help. Animal control could not because their hands are tied due to the current ordinance. Now, we had these dogs caught on camera killing our livestock. We are still waiting for justice 9 months later, and I have been begging animal control about the status of this ordinance, and I am appalled to find out where we're standing right now. That you guys haven't even seriously considered it is a travesty of justice. I have evidence from just these one set of negligent owners allowing their dogs to roam at least 8 times in the period of less than 1 year. 1 year. And they continue to do so. They continue to be neglectful and disregard our laws. They've killed our animals. They've also been documented on camera killing someone else's animals, and animal control can't do anything to remove these dogs. And your ordinance prevents them from euthanizing these dogs. And I demand justice for our livestock, for children that have been injured, and for the general public. Because there are people out there who don't obey the laws, and they need to be held accountable. It needs to be addressed before it happens to you guys. And then you're not going to be so blasé about it. This is ridiculous. Grow up, or you should be removed from office. We are begging out here for help. We're begging for help. What happens if my grandkids are out there who are 4 and 5 years old and these dogs return? And the grandkids aren't going to sit there and let this happen. They're going to get in between them and they're going to get hurt. Grow up and fix this. This needs to be addressed. now. And quit targeting somebody that's just trying to do their job because your friend has a fucking monkey. Are you kidding me?
As a reminder, language like that will not be tolerated in here. So we can remove or refrain from, actually, you need to be removed. Yes, remove her.
That's just the first one.
We appreciate your comments, but that language is not tolerated. Thank you.
My name is Alicia Slack. I live here in Lapeer. I am the Animal Intake Coordinator at Lapeer County Animal Control. I have been in this position for just over 6 months now. In the 6 months I have been a part of this department, I have seen nothing but determination and drive to educate the people of our county and help and protect the animals that live within it. When we were notified of the messages going around, we weren't sure what to think, and as it directly impacts our department. The board was given ample opportunity and were urged to ask questions if they felt they needed clarity on anything. Although some did take advantage of this opportunity, it was clear the commissioners that were active in the text thread did not go about the proper channels with any concerns that they have had. If they had done so, it very well could have cleared up the foggy view that seems to be had of Lapeer County Animal Control. This department is composed of 4 extremely hardworking women who are passionate about what they do, from helping animals and the people in need to the daily tasks that come with housing the animals in our care. Again, I state, we are only 4 people, 4 bodies in 3 positions, 1 chief, 2 officers, and 1 intake coordinator, who are all cross-trained to do whatever may be needed. We take multitudes of animals in on any given day, both in our care and around the county. We evaluate, vaccinate, make and attend vet appointments, exercise, advertise, vet potential adopters, and find homes for animals in our care. We take in multiple strays daily, advertise them, and pray we find their owners. Not only in most cases would we be happy to reunite the animals and educate the owners on things that pertain to their circumstance, whether it be containment, diet, or hygiene of the animal, most days we are nearing or at capacity and have to wonder how we will fit the next handful of animals that are bound to come in the next day. Licensing your dog within the county you reside is not only a state law, but a way of faster reunion for dog and owner, as every tag has its own unique number that links it back to their owner in our system. If the license was worn by the dog, it is a simple phone call to our office and we are able to contact the owner. This helps us keep numbers down so we are physically and financially able to care for the animals that truly need it, as the care they currently receive is mainly funded by donations from our community and the support from 2 local supportive nonprofits. We all work endlessly to help the animals and educate the people of Lapeer County. We are not sure how to process the fact that all of our hard work goes unnoticed, and how we could possibly be labeled as lazy, wagers of war, bored housewives, and I'm sure there were many other things.
Okay, anyone else from the public like to comment during the first public time?
Good morning, gentlemen. Steve Dillon, Lapeer. This really isn't an issue of the animals now, is it? This is an issue of civil rights. This is an issue of the 4th Amendment of the Constitution. The sheriff himself does not have the ability to walk up onto your property to look for crimes. Should the sheriff or any of his members do that, it's called fruit from the poisonous tree. You cannot introduce into court evidence that was obtained from an illegal search. This is a simple fact of law. What the animal control officer appears to be asking for is the ability to walk up onto your property at will and look for evidence of a crime, violation of an ordinance, or an improper license. This constitutes fruit from the poisonous tree. This should not be allowed, period. We just heard from the previous speaker that there are 4 members of animal control. Please explain to me how new ordinances further restricting the public and the citizens and violating their civil rights and Fourth Amendment are going to assist these four individuals in doing their work better, faster, and more efficiently. I would say, being an animal lover, yes, direct some more funds toward animal control. Yes, try to get them more people to help them do their jobs correctly. More restrictions on the citizenry is tomfoolery, and we know this. All one has to do is look at a city like Chicago with draconian gun laws and 5 to 6 shootings per day. New ordinances don't improve situations like this. Better funding, more staff, better vigilance, and promoting cooperation in the community improves situations like this. Any searches committed under that ordinance by these animal control officers fruit of the poison tree. I've heard idiots say things, I'd just shoot her if she came up on my property. That's stupid. But I would go after the county for violating rights. I'd file lawsuits. That's what I do. And then the county's in a bind because the officer is walking on the property trespassing. Thank you, gentlemen.
Anyone else from the public like to comment this morning?
Morning, Commissioners. John DeAngelis, Metamora Township. I'm all in favor on making it stricter on these vicious dogs. I understand that's a problem. But this overreach with people carrying guns, they should not have guns. It'd be far more effective with bear spray than having a handgun trying to shoot a charging dog. That's ridiculous. Are they going to look for their backstop? But the owner's behind the dog. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. A lot of their proposals make no sense. And beyond that, them cherry picking your private Texas among each other, I think is a fireable offense, and they should be fired for that. If this was in the private sector, they would be fired immediately for that kind of behavior. And I think we should run the government like we run the private sector. It'd be far more efficient. And I want to thank you, Commissioner Coleman, for saying we want to keep the government small, not enlarge it. And Commissioner Nice, I want to thank you for pointing out the Fourth Amendment rights that would be violated. You know, if they want a better ordinance for these vicious dogs, just write that. Don't write all this other stuff, all this overreach. Thanks.
Anyone else from the public like to comment this morning?
Morning, Commissioners. Gabriel Lossing. I'm from Deerfield Township. That's a township where we have war with animals, apparently. Actually, I'd like to tell a story. My dog got headbutted the other day by the goat. I was hoping we could pass an ordinance to, maybe arrest the goat or something like that, It's just kind of comical to me that we can sit here and look at the commissioners and act like you guys don't know anything about animals. I know for a fact that we've got 2 farmers here that deal with animals day in, day out. So I just think that's comical. But in this ordinance, it says, no person shall refuse to permit the animal control officer after proper identification to inspect any premises. I love it when we talk about law. I love it when we talk about ordinances. And we've mentioned the Fourth Amendment, but I'd like to read the Fourth Amendment. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects, that's movable property, against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. I would hope that you guys would stand your ground. I thank you for doing that. I would also like to ask that you fire Rachel Horton. Definitely do not believe we should have somebody that doesn't understand the Constitution in play. I also think that you guys should remember your oaths to defend the Constitution and keep that in mind. So thank you.
Anyone else from the public like to comment this morning?
Morning. My name is Kurt Nass. I'm the fire chief for Hadley Township Fire Department. I'm part of Commissioner Nisley's district. And I want to talk about the Office of Emergency Management. I'm not sure if you're aware, because this is something new, the plight of our fire departments nationwide, statewide, and especially in this county, we're in trouble. To give you some perspective, Hadley Township purchased a pumper, frontline pumper fire truck in 2019, pre-COVID. That truck was $593,000. To give you its perspective, 2 years later, Genesee Township tried to purchase this same exact vehicle, same specs, same manufacturers, over $900,000. 2-year difference. So we had just purchased a tanker, which is over $400,000. We purchased it last year, and we can't even get a chassis built, and the cost is going up, which is insane. The cost of everything in the fire department is not going up at a just an easy rate. It's exponentially going up. 2004, we purchased a pumper tanker pumper rescue. That was $286,000. $134,000 of that was FEMA grant money, which was very important to us. 2 years later, we received $20,000 in FEMA grant money for turnout gear. A couple of years after that, the county, I wrote a grant for the firefighter training center in the amount of $8 grand, which we received. All FEMA, or Homeland Security, before it changed its name. No strings attached, anything like that. So when we are presented with the opportunity to take advantage of grants, whether it's infrastructure, public safety, public improvement, we need to grab it. There's over 3,000 counties in the United States. There's 83 counties here. I'm pretty certain that nearly all of Hadley Township citizens pay federal taxes. I know I do. And I want every dime back that we can get, whether it's a grant for the prosecutor, whether it's a grant for my department, or somewhere else in this county. We need to get that money back, period. I don't trust the government. I understand the question of strings attached. If there's anybody in this building that trusts the government, I'd like to talk to them because they're insane. But at the local level, we trust in you to get our tax dollars back. So we want our money back. And when an opportunity like this comes up for Office of Emergency Management, especially for scene lighting, I invite any of you to go to your local fire department at 2 a.m. and realize the need for scene lighting. It's a simple thing to ask for, but it goes a long way when we get there. So, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else from the public like to comment this morning?
Carolyn, Marathon Township, and it's interesting that you're talking about grants because that was one of the things I wanted to talk about. And I think that when you really start thinking about all the grants, it's come to the point where the money's not gonna trickle down automatically. You're gonna have to write grants for everything. And at that point, it's gonna be selective choice. And that's what's going on now. You write the grant and they're deciding who's gonna get it. So that's the problem. It's snowballing. You're not just gonna get funded, you're gonna have to, write a grant. And I know in my township, they're putting money into a couple people who can be better grant writers. And it's not that difficult to write a grant, but you have to know what they want. You have to know what they want written on that paper. And if you don't have the right answer, you fail the test. So I heard this last week that there are more and more homeless people that are showing up at different places. And there's a couple of Substacks that are a couple of writers that are very good. Amy Loftus talked about the 2 Democrats that visited the border this last week. And one just went down to Yuma with cameras to offer us a glimpse. The Uniparty shared in the $13 billion human trafficking profit with the cartels in 2022, guaranteed by the out-of-control spiral. Why would they visit? Still think there's a difference between Democrats and Republicans? There's not. It's a globalist uniparty of snakes versus America first public servants who recognize the Constitution. Don't think it's complicated mess of a bunch of different kinds of crises. These crises they're all plain. It means plain. And if we don't believe that, we're insane. And then going back to the grants, there's a doctor who also writes, his name is Dr. Jim Thorpe, and he has written a 5-part about the covenant with death. And it's all about grants. It's all about the money that has been given from Department of Health and Human Services to all of these other people. And if you read into, now we, just like the grant, okay, maybe some grants are great, maybe there's not a lot of things attached to them. And just like he said, we do depend on you. We depend on you to be able to read those, but you have to have time to read those. And I say if there's anything that's attached that is totally out of control and you feel uncomfortable with, we've become a society of tolerance. We can't hurt anyone's feelings. It's all about virtue, all that. That's your job. Your job is to read those and say, you know what? We don't like this and we're not doing it. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public like this comment this morning?
Ruth Stahl from Arcadia Township. I appreciate all of Rachel's listed credentials. However, one of the most important parts of a job, in my opinion, is to return phone calls. I'm sorry to say I've phoned animal control a number of times, left messages, and have not had any return calls, which tells me animal control does not care about me or my animals. The Lord Almighty is the creator of all things, including government. He created 3 institutions to care for us: family, church, and government. His heart is for all to experience godly governance. The branches of American government model his character, for the Lord is our judge. This is what the Lord says: maintain justice and do what is right. The Lord is our lawgiver. If you fully obey the Lord your God and carefully follow all his commands I give you today, the Lord your God will set you high above all the nations on earth. So good. The Lord is our King. See, a king will reign in righteousness and rulers will rule with justice. Thank you.
Amen.
Anyone from the public like to comment this morning?
John Stahl, Arcadia Township, former state representative of Lapeer County. I'm here because I have concerns. But I want to tell you, each of you have been voted to serve us, elected of we the people. And that's our Constitution where we get to vote you in. So I'm respecting, as I speak to you, I'm respecting all the people you represent that they chose. And I'm thankful for that. And my concerns are, I've shared this before here at this commission, that the person in the preamble, it says, we the people of the state of Michigan, grateful to the Almighty God for the blessings of freedom and earnestly desiring to secure these blessings on diminish to ourselves and our posterity to sustain these Constitution. To our posterity, that's what I'm concerned about. Every time we make a decision, it's going to be intentional or unintended consequences of all the decisions that you make. And by serving in the state house, I see that. But my biggest concern is that we have given from the federal monies that come from our education, that we're giving up parental rights, where they can teach transgender and gender change and all this kind of rubbish. Our Constitution was ratified in 1963, the Michigan Constitution, and we still recognize our Almighty God in it. And our Creator from the Declaration of Independence all the way to the Constitution,
So everything you decide, you're gonna stand judgment on. Because you're making, Ruth just acknowledged that we have government set up, families, and government to protect those and all that. So everything you do, where we can't just reach and grab all the money we can from the feds, but sign our autonomy from our sheriff away in case of an emergency. We saw what the governor did in case of an emergency, shut down businesses, did things while she traveled out of the state, told everybody else they couldn't. We don't want to give our children a tyrannical government. Yesterday it was announced that we are $1 trillion in debt. What are we handing our children? Think about that. And the mandates, last year I got re-involved because the mandates, vaccinations, and it was brought before this commission. 6 of those people are gone. 1's left because they did not want to change the mandate or speak against it. And that's why many of you ran. Thank you.
Anyone else in the public like to comment during the first public time?
Hello, my name is Rose Navarre and I'm from Attica Township. Just a little history on me. I have been volunteering in shelter since 1980. I know no one knows that about me. I was pre-vet in biology before that. So literally every Saturday when I was at school at Kent State, I went every single weekend and volunteered. I'm very, very well aware of the issue with rescues and adoption. When my children went to high school, they volunteered at the Oakland County shelters because their school was right there. I took home numerous feral cats. In fact, we kept half of them. All of my animals on the farm are actually, all the cats are feral, they're all fixed. I totally understand what's going on in the world of that. No one was criticizing the job that Rachel has done to the animal shelter. Let's get that straight. Now, I've been gone for about 5 or 7 days, so I'm kind of out of the loop. But I have been coming to the meetings fairly regularly, and I know Rachel and many people from Deerfield Township have been here discussing, and I don't know that many of the people behind me have been here listening to those discussions with the commissioners. In fact, I stopped the woman who swore and left. I stopped her and asked her if she'd been here. I didn't think so. She said no. And she's very angry. And I said, you've been listening. My commissioners, I watched. I said, they listened. They were empathic. They said something needs to be done. She's totally unaware of that. So many people behind me are misinformed, like this is a brand new issue. I personally have listened to the people's testimony. One of them lasted an hour and a half longer than I really thought the meeting would last because I didn't know they were coming. And I was upset with them. I have a farm. I don't want wild dogs coming around. So I listened. Gary Hall, it was his district. So everyone on this board, for the people behind me, listened very attentively to those people because there were children involved, children being pinned against the garage doors. But the people who are behind me who are speaking out against you are unaware of the last couple of months of discussion that's been done on this. So I want to get that clear first. So I'm not sure, like I said, social media, I really don't like social media. I think the text that I saw, it was so inappropriate that got slammed onto a social media account. Do we all, can I look at anyone's phone right now and tell you that was appropriate or inappropriate? That's private. That to me was very unprofessional. That should have never happened. Although I will tell you, the first one I read, I don't have my glasses, so I'll do my best, was from Tom Coleman. Morning, guys. I think it would be wise to ask a prosecutor to come in and explain to us the changes/additions to this animal control ordinance before we vote on it in order to avoid any unconstitutional violations issues. Anyone agree? I can ask him to do so. And I'm thinking, okay, why? What's the uproar? That's exactly why I voted for you all. I want my constitutional rights to be maintained. I don't know the depths of that ordinance. I haven't read it or seen it. But that's my take on it. I think the whole social media thing was very unprofessional. And I just want everyone behind me to know that it's been discussed here for at least 3 meetings. I don't even know. But I'm glad you're keeping my constitution at the top of your list because that's what means the most to me. So thank you very much.
Anyone else in the public like to comment during the first public time?
Good morning. My name is Courtney Pratt Sanders, and I'm a resident of Hadley Township.
and I feel scrambled. I should have spoken earlier. I've learned a lot sitting here. I actually came here today because I'm a newer resident to the county, bought our home in 2019, and I didn't know. I should have asked the sellers if we have cell phone service, internet service, cable service. It just didn't occur to me. So I found out the hard way that the answer would have been no to all three of those questions. So for the past few years, we've just struggled through trying to, well, we've bought 4 or 5 of these, internet cell boosters to try and get a better signal. But the past week I had an incident where someone was in my yard, in my fenced area with a gun. And when I tried to call 911, I couldn't get through. Sorry, I didn't expect to get emotional about it, but it scared me a lot. Every time I called, I got call failed. Nothing happened and the man left. But I need help. And I don't know what the county can do. I know there's infrastructure money out there to improve our internet services, more cell phone towers, better cell phone towers. I just know I need your help. Struggling through internet, working from my car in the McDonald's parking lot is uncomfortable and not fun, but I've been getting through it. But not being able to call 911 when I needed it was terrifying. I don't want to move. I don't want to sell my house, but I need infrastructure. I need to be able to get online. I need to be able to call 911. Now I actually want to address what I've heard here today because it's actually a complete coincidence that I'm here talking about this and you have an animal control issue going on. I have been in animal welfare for over 20 years. It's my profession and my expertise. I'm a board member of the Michigan Pet Alliance. We're the association that represents pet owners, animal welfare professionals. We come into communities and help you solve problems. We're a nonprofit, no politics involved whatsoever, completely bipartisan. Just doesn't even enter what we do. But we work with communities to develop ordinances, we help them solve problems, and I just wanted to let you know we exist. If Michigan Pet Alliance can assist you in any way, please call on us. We'd love to help you. The other thing I wanted to mention is I don't know Rachel Horton. I've never met her. Today's the first time I've seen her and put a face to a name. But I will tell you I know of her, and I know of her because she's considered to be one of the top animal control officers in the state of Michigan. And again, I'm not saying that because she's my friend. I don't know her. I know her name and I know her record. So the Department of Agriculture collects statistics from every shelter we have in the state, and they are ranked by performance. Who's saving the most number of lives and who isn't. And Lapeer County went from the bottom of that list to the top under her watch. So I'm shocked. I feel like scrambled eggs because I've sat here and listened to this, and it blows my mind. There are so many counties struggling hard to get that kind of leadership because it's about public safety and it's about humane treatment of animals, and that's it. And there's so many counties who would love to have her. I just want to say those things so that you know what her reputation is outside of this county, and also to know that our dog laws were written in 1919, and that's what we're operating under. And because the state hasn't updated it yet, we need our municipalities to do it. I apologize for going over time.
I want to hear what you have to say, but.
Yeah, I didn't expect to speak on the animal stuff, but again, if there's any infrastructure things you can do to help, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public like to comment during the first public time?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Dave Eady, and I am the past Director of Animal Control before Rachel took over, and I'm also a former County Commissioner. When I took over Animal Control 6 years ago, I guess it was, whatever, it was a mess. It was terrible. And when I was a Commissioner, myself and Commissioner Kemp, who kind of spearheaded getting animal control a little more modernized. It was pretty bad in the old days. And so we had it renovated. We didn't spend a lot of money, but we did what we could. And it's still not a very good place to have animal control. But that aside, it took me a while to get the right staff in there that actually wanted to work and try to make improvements. And Rachel was one of the first ones that I hired, and the other girls, Erica and Stephanie and Ashley and Alicia that are there now. Man, you couldn't have asked for better choices because, like the last lady just said, we went from the bottom of the list to where we are almost like number one now, I think, in the state. It's just amazing the turnaround that we've made in those years at animal control. I'm upset that this got to this point. I really think that if there maybe would have been some more dialogue, that things could have avoided this mess. I hate to see it. I hate to see people out there saying they want her fired. I mean, she's done amazing things there after me. And it's, I wish every one of you would go out there and work for 2-3 days with them and see what they go through every day. And that goes for anybody else sitting behind me. It is absolute hell in here. Excuse my language, but it is. It can be. I mean, from the types of complaints you have to deal with, to having to euthanize animals, that's not a fun thing to do. I actually stopped it. I had somebody come in December 11th. I'll never forget this, the day I die. December 11th, wanted to turn in an 11-year-old dog and wanted it euthanized because they were getting a new puppy for their kids for Christmas. I'm sorry. That was the last euthanasia I did for the general public. If you have to do it for some other reason, because of an injury or a vicious dog or something, that's one thing. But just to say I want my dog euthanized because I'm getting a puppy, it hurts. If you like animals at all, it does something to your heart. So I'm here in support of animal control. I hope you guys can work this out. It shouldn't be the way it is right now. It shouldn't be tearing things apart. And unfortunately, you know, I hope things can be worked out. I don't think the intent of her ordinance is to be like a Gestapo and go take people's dogs. I just don't think that's the intent. And I think if there had been a little more dialogue, maybe that would have been avoided. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public like to comment during the first public time?
You don't have to sign it, right here.
Don't worry, guys, I'm gonna check the dog department. Ken Kopnick, Oregon Township. What I wanna say is, first of all, I would like to give props to our new administrator. Last meeting, I asked him for some figures and told him he would probably be stonewalled when he attempted to get them one. Today, he sought me out before the meeting started and gave me 3 years worth of figures that I asked for. He attempted to do what I asked him to do. Now, a meeting or two ago, my commissioner sat in these chambers and he made the statement that one of his buddy's ex-wives came back to this county at election time to vote off his address. Everybody can say nothing gets manipulated, there's no fraud, there's no mistakes. And I would point out that our clerk, I don't know if she caught him afterwards, but having said, I know she's coming back and voting illegally in Lapeer County, nobody said, see me, I want that name. And so you guys know how you are valued. I had a township clerk was talking to their deputy. And the conversation went roughly, he's no good. But he was appointed by the commission. Teresa cannot get rid of him. And it was said loud enough that people in the hall heard it. He continued to say, but it doesn't matter because there's no more good Republican candidates left on the list to choose from. That's the kind of crap that goes on behind closed doors. What the people have to realize is they don't have to listen to what you're saying when you bother to attempt to answer a question. It's just all garbage. I do not like bringing religion into chambers. But for those people who believe in whatever they believe in, I'm going to tell you I have read scripture where it says, go in with no money in your purse and no cloak. If the lights are on, look in. If they offer you meat, eat. But if they will not hear you, when you leave, wipe the dust from your shoes, because it will fall on them worse than Sodom and Gomorrah. You know what, folks? A lot of times when I walk out of here with what I've heard go on, trust me, everybody should dust their shoes.
Anyone else like to comment during the first public time?
I didn't plan on speaking. I'm Andrea from Memora. I was there when Craig died, so on Thomas Road. This needs to be fixed. I was there. My son was with me, watching them get CPR on the ground. Blood, just, nobody should see that. I can't unsee it. And it needs to stop. I'm struggling with it. So is my son. I have dogs. I do work a lot with dogs. I have a dog treat business. Something like that should never be seen by anybody. I hope you guys never see something like that. I hope your children never see that and witness somebody struggling and bleeding to death on the roads. It's horrific. It's so terrible. And you don't know when it's going to happen. I didn't plan on it happening that day. Craig didn't plan on it. He jogged past my house that day. I saw him. We waved. He jogged. We got in the car. We drove that way. We normally drive this way. And we see this man laying on the ground. Helen giving him CPR. I can hear Craig talking. I'm dying, aren't I? She said, no, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. Police pull up, then EMS pull up. He was already dead. My child saw that. He was out of the car. And he witnessed all of this. I witnessed it. And I can't get it out of my head. These vicious dog laws got to be passed. Something has got to be done about this. You shouldn't see it, guys. Nobody should. Thank you.
Anyone else in the public like to comment during the first public time? Okay, we're going to close the first public time. I do want to go back to amended motion for chairman committee appointments. Is that immediate effect?
Yes, effective immediately.
Clerk, do you need to note that? That the chair, the revised chairman committee appointments are immediate?
There wasn't a written motion, so I need it somehow with all the words you wanted.
Okay. That gives that to the after meeting. Okay. Okay, usually I'm going to make a brief statement on just because this is going to be a long meeting. We have a lot on the agenda. I know a lot of you guys have jobs and other responsibilities. I do want to touch base of the fact that this particular animal ordinance, we didn't get a copy of this till roughly a week ago. I think I can speak for at least 4 or 5 of us that we have not laid eyes on this ordinance until a week ago. And when the statement was made by Department Head Horton that they've been working on it for a year, that's true, but this particular board didn't take office till January. And the whole issue with the Deerfield, which is Commissioner Howell and myself's district, that was brought to our attention roughly 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago. And we live in that district and know the people affected. So we have every intention of providing an ordinance that protects people. But per legal opinion that we've gotten on this ordinance, the way it stands now, it gives more power to animal control than it does to the police. If the police happen to be searching for a serial killer who's not in the act of committing a crime, they need a bench warrant to go in and arrest somebody. We're not going to give more power to animal control to go in and search your house and take your dog because you didn't pay your second. You've had 2 warnings of not paying a dog license, or maybe they suspect that there's a vicious dog. So those are our concerns, and our job as county commissioners is to protect the rights of the citizens of the county to our degree. We're not state legislators. We don't control state law. But in this situation, we're being asked to pass a county animal control ordinance, which I think are we the only county that's in the state that would have that. I know there's cities all over and municipalities, but as far as the county ordinance,
Every other county board.
okay. But we want to make sure that we're not giving power away that shouldn't be given. I mean, would any of you be okay with having animal control come into your house because maybe they're having a bad day, or they think there's a vicious dog and they discover all these things? It's an illegal search and seizure. And we're not okay with that. And I would assume that most people would agree that let's not give animal control more police power than the sheriff's department. So that's our concern. And again, it's only been with us. I've only seen that ordinance for a week. I'm pretty sure maybe Commissioner Zender has had the opportunity to view it before us because he was on the last board. But the 6 of us have not seen it up until a week ago. And I want to make sure that everybody knows that. There was one other thing I wanted to comment on. We can get to that in the grants. If you guys want more details on grants, on our stances on grants, emergency management grant is coming up on agenda item number 7. I'm sure there'll be a lengthy discussion on the reasons and logic behind decisions that were made or that won't be made. So, but that's it. So that brings us to first new business, which is prosecuting attorney, is a request approval to renew the MDHHS contract agreement for prosecution reimbursement of abuse and neglect cases. Do we have a motion on that?
I'll make the motion to approve the renewal of the MDHHS contract agreement.
Support.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. That brings us to item number B, requesting acceptance of the 2024 Crime Victim Rights Grant.
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman, to accept the 2024 Crime Victim Rights Grant.
I'll support. So I have Hamilton motion, I will support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. That brings us to item number 2, Sheriff's Department's request to approve the purchase of a new Leica brand TS-07 manual total station used for traffic crash construction. Is the sheriff here to comment on that, or doesn't look like it? Okay. Do we have a motion on that?
Both people walking in right now. I was watching, I was coming. Actually, I'm gonna have Deputy Kenyak present this. Obviously, we've had some things in front of you here recently, reference all of our reconstruction stuff. Obviously, with technology, there's multiple pieces to that. He's gonna kind of do an overview and answer any questions for you.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I know I've met some of you in passing. Deputy Eric, I'm with the Sheriff's Office here for a little over 7 years now. Work our patrol division, work our marine division, one of our divers with our dive team. Work with Mr. Bustle and manage our fleet of vehicles with our office. Our camera systems, both our vehicle systems and our body camera systems. Also one of our crash investigators at the office. So with our office, we actually got 2 of us. There's Detective Jason Parks, who has been doing that since I was in grade school. There's myself, and actually we just recently started up within the last 2 years a joint county team that includes Officer Steve Hinsberger from the Lapeer City Police Department and Sergeant Ryan Davis from Memorial Township. So collectively, there's 4 of us. We all hold the title of crash reconstructionist, which is pretty much top tier. So it's a service that we provide to every agency of the county. All of our police departments can call us at any time. Unfortunately, we are always on call 24/7, so we do get quite a bit of call-ins, unfortunately, because we typically only get called in if it's something serious, serious injuries, fatal accidents. Our job primarily is to look solely at physical evidence on scenes. Even some of our other officers and stuff, it's always kind of fun when we pull up on scene. The first thing they want to do is, hey, there's the driver of that vehicle, there's a witness there. We don't want to know that. We want to objectively take our opinions, take everything out, and we want to focus solely on the evidence that we see from us. That's how we calculate our opinions and our factual findings. So in order to do that, we have a lot of very specialized equipment. I know over the years that I've gotten into doing crash reconstruction side of it, we've had some proposals come through, asked for a new laptop, a new GNS system. Typically every year we have some software that we have to renew.
So I know that my name's kind of popped up on some proposals. Of course, the sheriff trusted me enough to finally come out in public here and see you guys all today. That's what we wanted to explain to you guys. So the system that we are asking for is actually a very similar device that we currently have. We have a device called, it's a Sophia I-30R. It's a manual toll station we got back in 2000. The best way I can describe this, because I think when I was trying to sell it to the admin, I got a little carried away, started talking about, all kinds of reflections and mirrors and started talking about calculations and stuff, so that's why I'm here. The device that we have, like I said, was 2008. It served our county great. It's basically comparison-wise, it's technology, just like a computer. This is basically your standard iPhone. What we're trying to do is upgrade to what's our current iPhone 14. The reason why is we've upgraded a lot of our software and diagramming. Our current toll station is not compatible with our current other devices that we're using. We have a dedicated, really old computer at our office that I believe runs on Windows 7, just to download the data from our current toll station. We keep it there just for that sole purpose. So we have new software that's interchangeable with, with our officers and our other municipalities. So for us, it's more of a hindrance to keep this whole computer, keep this whole software going. So we started looking at replacing it, especially when we found out, like I said, it's not compatible with our other devices that we use. So we ended up reaching out to Leica. We already have some Leica equipment. They're an excellent company that we've dealt with already. They have some excellent support. They come out, train us on it. That would include our other officers from our other agencies. So they would happily come out. We can call them 24 hours a day. Even out in the middle of the night, their local tech guy, Matt, will answer his phone call at 2 in the morning if we're out on a crash scene and we're having issues with the device. All this equipment is very specialized. But at the end of the day, this device, and I know we've all kind of driven through a construction zone, especially somewhere in Michigan here. We've seen that monocular device sitting on a tripod. That's exactly what this is. This device basically helps us gather and plot points. That way when we go back to the office and the real fun begins, we start analyzing everything, we start doing calculations. We can use these points to calculate distances from things like skid marks, takeoff and landing areas for airbornes. We can use all that to get calculations for speeds, takes off, trajectory. It's incredible. It's a huge component. But in order to do this, we need this equipment. When we go out to these crash scenes, everything's held down for us, but as soon as we say we're okay, we're okay, we're clear. Tow trucks come in, the fire trucks come in, the lockdowns, that crash scene is gone. We can never go back to that scene, we can never get that evidence back that we might have missed, or if our device isn't working properly, wasn't able to capture. That evidence is now gone. So we have to have the equipment that ensures that when we go out there and we have that one opportunity, we're going to be able to do it effectively for communities in the community that these investigations are ultimately being done for. So you'll see on this proposal, it's actually through a MI contract deal, pricing right from Leica themselves. This does include their discount as well as a trade-in. So the old device that we do currently have, which, like I said, is basically a paperweight, they are offering a trade-in amount on it. It's actually a very nice trade-in, so that allows us to get rid of our old technology and move up to the current technology. From my understanding, speaking with the representative Rick over there, these devices are in stock. They're ready to ship right out to us. So if we get it approved, we're okay to have them send it right out, and they'll actually set up some training so we can transfer over. It also includes some software updates for other devices that are currently being used by us, so that they can communicate with each other. It'll basically bring us all up to speed on that.
I think a couple quick things was, one, he mentioned in there, this is under a state bid, so that's why the pricing through them. The second piece I think that we pushed and have talked about in the past is our goal to kind of work as partnership with all the departments throughout the county, use our resources. So, and Eric's been just a godsend in doing this. So they have Metamora, Lapeer City on, and us on, is what's really good for the county. We're trying to find that, push that in many areas. And then lastly, we just talked, we've had ungodly amounts of fatals recently, in a serious accident. And I know between the four of them, I know they were working in Henry City, had a rough go there with a lot of fatals. But between the four of them, they had 14 cars to download from those fatals in that 2 weeks. So they're very overworked, as he said before, but I think it's a huge piece of it. And I think lastly and most importantly, with this huge resource, is this is coming through the line item, the forfeiture line item. So is at no cost to the taxpayers of the county.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So do we have?
I would like for us to share one question if you don't mind. Are you the only department that has this equipment, or does the state police also have it?
No, we're definitely not the only department that has it. We mirror a lot. The state police has a reconstruction service, obviously. They also are using a lot of the same Leica equipment. That's kind of where a couple of years back when we were kind of looking at upgrading a lot of our software and our equipment, we kind of piggybacked off of them and what other departments would want to. Obviously, Oakland County has a reconstruction team. We reach out to like Tuscola and Sanilac. Jason actually does a really good job networking. Like I said, he's been, reconstructionist for forever. Yeah, we'll say forever.
No, I was just referring to our county.
Yes.
But that's a great question. I'm sorry, Eric, to cut you off. One of the things, so state police do have it. The problem is they're regionalized. So that's why we really push for here. If we, knock on wood, we have a fatal today, between our four people, they're on scene very quickly. The way the state police does it with all their concept teams, whether it's the ES team or their dive team, they're coming from all different locations in the state to respond to do the reconstruction. So we could have a fatal accident that if we didn't have our own team and right on scene, we might have to hold that road for 2-3 hours to get somebody from Lansing and then somebody from Jackson. So that's why it's really important that we think we have that service for the county so that our people have that ability to do it quicker. That's a great question.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other comments? Just as I mentioned that the equipment is outdated and running on Windows 7, just from an IT perspective. This board needs to keep in mind that technology moves fast. New stuff comes out all the time. And if they're running Windows 7, that's a huge security risk for hackers. There's tons of exploits on that. Somebody could be getting into their system through that. So I really think this board needs to take it seriously when it comes to technology matters to make sure that we're keeping things current.
Thank you. Okay. You seconded that, right? You supported that motion? Or, right, Brian, this one? Yeah.
Certainly would. I don't think.
Oh, I she was asking. He did. Now I will.
So we have motion and support. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to item number 3, probate court. Request to approve the submission of the Child Care Budget Fund 292 to the state and authorize the chairman to sign.
I'm sorry. Good morning, gentlemen. This is our annual child care fund budget that is budget-driven in regards to an agreement between Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the probate family court. This addresses child neglect proceedings and all costs of care for children that are providing services in the home and or out of the home, as well as delinquent youth that have committed crimes and or trying to provide services to them prior to committing a crime. Like at-risk kids, school truancy is a big one that we address. This grant or child care fund supports 6 individuals in our office to address a lot of at-risk kids. So this budget is a small increase from last year. I have moved a lot of funds into in-home care programs versus out of home because we're really trying to keep kids in the home and work with the entire family instead of removing them. which is a direction the state is going. There are several bills in legislature right now that is going to cause us some changes, basically affecting the 25 budget. I think most of them will pass, but it's got to get through that process and debate it. So we are working this next year. I'll be asking for some other things. One of those requests will be each of our officers will need to have risk assessment training, and we will have to hire or contract with a university to do some statistician, all to support some of the things that we're doing. So over the next year, we're going to have to make some changes if we're going to, get the 50% feedback from the state. If we do some of those changes, then the state will reimburse us 75%. So it's worth going and expending some of those monies to get them to reimburse our in-home programs at 75%. So this next year is going to be really putting a lot of practices into play that we've never had to do before. So changes in the winds. So this is due in Lansing here in August. I'm sorry, it's always outside of your budget year. But as I said, it is a small increase because will be coming to personnel and asking for a part-time truancy officer, which is an addition because they had over 300 complaints last year to deal with. And it's been problematic with the COVID and schools going in and out of the virtual. Kids are really having struggles. So my current schools and the truancy department has worked together trying to problem solve a lot of that and work with the children. Questions on the child care fund?
Just a dollar question.
Yep.
By reading the numbers right, we're putting up 795,000. The state's going up apparently close to 700,000.
No. I don't know what
It says 795,000 in county share.
Oh, 795,000. I'm sorry, I only heard 95,000 and I'm going, oh, no.
It was 95.
I do too. I can't operate on the 95.
So the money in beyond the 795, that's grant money.
Correct. Yeah.
Any questions? Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll move to authorize the chairman to sign the child care fund 2091 for the total of $1,463,208 with 795,163 being county share.
I get on support.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Brings us to item number 4, Cheryl Clark, Kind Executive Director, requests to renew funding for the Kind, which is Kids in New Direction, School to Career Preventative Program. All right.
Thank you for having us. This is Chelsea Haynes. She is one of our caseworkers. And I'm Cheryl Clark. I was county commissioner for 30 years, and a little bit of background on me. I used to work for the Commission on Aging, which was the Department of Senior Activities now. And I worked for a year, and the director seemed to lie a lot, and I left. And the seniors called and asked me to run for county commissioner, and I said no. And I had prayed about, somebody had asked me if working for the Department of Senior Activities would be political, and I said, no, why would it be political if I cooked, And so I saying my prayers, I said, whatever you want me to do, I don't ever want to have anything political ever again. And so the seniors called and asked me to run for county commissioner, and I said no. And they called again, and I said no. And they called again, and I felt like the Lord was saying, what do you want me to do? Hit you over the head with a 2x4? So I said yes, and I ran, and I was a commissioner for 30 years, and then I came back as an assistant controller when John Driscoll left. And Jackie and I were able to get a lot of stuff done during that time. So, when I first became a county commissioner, Judge Preisel and I were walking down the hall and he said, if we would get these kids while they were just getting into trouble before they got into probate court, it'd be better for everybody. And I said, you're right, let's do it. So we started the program. It was a Lapeer County Prevention Program. It was a county program. And then we changed the name to Kids in New Direction, the KIND program. And then we went to a nonprofit agency because we thought we could apply for more grants and all that. Our focus was still trying to keep kids out of probate court. And we had one program. It was working with kindergarten through 8th grade at-risk kids. At-risk is defined very loosely as any child not being successful at homeschool in the community. So they could have anger problems, they could be failing all their classes, they could be straight A students but have no friends. Whatever it is, we work with a child for 2 hours a week. We go home and work with parents for 3 to 5 months. And that's been our kind of our main program. In 2002, the director, who was full-time, 40 hours a week, and the secretary, 20 hours a week, both resigned. And Lori called me and said, we can't make payroll, what are we going to do? So we had a board meeting, and I had just graduated college with my teaching degree, and I said I would take the program for 6 months at 20 hours a week to see if we can save the program because it was so valuable and it helped so many families and children. And so we served 23 kids that year. It was half year for me. And now we serve well over 200 families every year for probably the last 10 years. It's a voluntary program. They can be in it or they don't have to be. When I became a county commissioner, the big thing that I did is I looked at where there was needs in the county and how we can solve those. And so that's why a lot of the programs that were created, I helped start, like the wraparound program, the family focused mentors, all those prevention programs, because our child care budget was going up $100,000 every year for like the last 4 years. And we had to stop that. We couldn't afford it. So we started doing prevention programs, and 2 years after we started, our child care budget went up $8,000. So it did work, and it has worked, and it does save a lot of money if you do the prevention. I have my gingerbread child here. You guys all have a new gingerbread child. Everyone has a different saying on it. This one's Lisa. Lisa's 9 years old. My mom got a divorce and had to go to work. Now she has a boyfriend. She's staying on third shift to see him. My 18-year-old sister buys alcohol for me and my sisters. And mom knows, but she still is not willing to stay at home. So those are kind of some of the things, all the stories that you have. I encourage you to share your gingerbread child message to each other because they're all different. We started with the KIND program, and then I became the director of Citizen Probation Council, which is first-time offenders. They come to us, they work with a mentor an hour a week for 16 weeks. They do 10 hours community service, and they do 6 classes. When I was doing that program, I realized how many kids had dropped out of school, that they needed like 2 more credits. They needed, 1 more year. And it was constantly, it seemed like they weren't connected to the school, and that's why they were dropping out. We have about 200 kids a year drop out of school or don't finish. And so I started looking at doing a program with KIND to go into schools 5 hours a week to help them stay in school. We are in Lapeer School, High School, Elm City High School, Roland Warner, Zimmer, Elmont, Elmwood City Middle School, and we are in the Venture and what's Lapeer's name? The alternative schools, we are in those too. And it's 5 hours a week, and no, it's not enough, but it is something. And I gave you letters from all of the, a lot of the principals and the people that we work with, the counselors in the schools. They are from last year, but it shows how important we are and how much we're needed. The Community Collaborative, one of our goals was the 3 areas of concern was kids dropping out of high school. So that's one of the reasons we started this program. So we started in the junior highs and the high school. You guys have budgeted $18,500. We've been using that for, I think, 5 years now. We look for other grants to fund that too. And so that's the program that we have. We also do the MESS program that was new last year. We did it for 10 weeks. And that's manners, etiquette, social skills for the elementary, because these kids, they don't have manners. They're not getting the guidance at home. With COVID, everything seems to be in an uproar. Chelsea did these programs. We did them for 10 weeks, and Turl, Murphy, and Chicklers, and they said, can you come back and do it for the rest of the year? So we contracted with schools to finish out the year, and then we didn't start them until January. And we also did a Just Breathe program where it's anger management control, because kids have a lot of trouble controlling their anger, and that was highly successful. They wanted us more for that too. We also took Citizen Probation Council. We put that under the KIND program, so now we work with first-time offenders. The prosecutor sends them to us, and it's still the same program. He has asked us if we would do anybody 4th grade through 17 stays in district court now if they're caught smoking, and he wants us to do a similar program with those children, which we are working on. So our whole goal has been to keep kids out of probate court, get families more stable, and we do a lot of court-related things because that's the program that we were created to do in the first place. But just because we're a nonprofit and we can seek out other funding, it's been beneficial for all of us. So with that, Chelsea, she does the junior high programs. So she gets the kids that come in and says, my mother's molesting me, and we call the court or go on the counselors, they call the police, and then the child comes back next week and said, Mom's mad at me because I told what my mother's doing. When we first started, we were getting cases with like hygiene and not passing class. Now it's way, way beyond that. And we are the people that are the grassroots people. We're boots on the ground. We're in homes. We're in with families. It's all volunteer. And it's not me, but it's my caseworkers. They are totally amazing, and they do awesome work and really turn these families around.
I just have a question, Joe. You never bring Kelly.
Okay, I was going to tell you that.
Kelly has all these wonderful recommendations. Are you afraid that we're going to steal Kelly?
Well, you stole one of mine, so Kelly was trying to drive a post, and she had this big weight, and she was trying to hold the post, and she dropped it on her head, and she has a closed head injury now, and so I'm not even sure when she's going to be able to come back to work, but otherwise she would have been here.
Kelly has definitely a lot of great recommendations all the time.
Yes, yeah. She's amazing. She does the high school programs. Chelsea does the middle school programs. They both are amazing and can really turn families around, turn kids around. Chelsea had one little boy, he was in the best program, and he went up to her and he said, look, I got a boat bucket, which is a rewards for being good in school. I said, oh, that's good. He said, I used to be really, really bad, but you started coming in and telling me how to be good. And so now I'm really good, and I'm trying to teach people better. So programs are working. The teachers love it. I mean, for us to do a 10-week program, asking us to come back for 10 weeks, they actually wanted us to come to the end of the year. We just couldn't afford the time. It's been amazing. We do contract with the court now. We are doing mentoring for kids that are in probate court. Like one boy, the mom told him, I don't want you. I don't want you around. So we are a mentor for them. One is a family living in a hotel room, and we're working with that girl. Another one, he has a mentality of a 12-year-old. They think when the mom started abusing him, his brain stopped growing. And so we are working with him to try and get him into, he's going to be 18 soon. He's in foster care, be able to go out on his own and be self-supporting. And our whole thing with a lot of these kids is not to let them get on the welfare. About 32% of our population is on welfare, and I don't know how we're going to be able to keep affording that. So our goal is to get them jobs. We did have a contract with Michigan Works, and we worked with 72 kids that had dropped out of school. Out of those kids, we got them all a GED, a high school diploma, into higher education or a trade school or a job. We lost 5 kids. 3 of them literally couldn't pass the GED test, but we got them a job. But they had some mental problems, so they couldn't pass it. 1 person moved away, and 1 person went to jail. So I can tell you we are very successful. Not me, it's my caseworker that are amazing.
I was under the motion that we approve the services for Lapeer County County, for Lapeer County School, for the school career program for the junior high and high schools in the amount of $18,500.
I'll support. I just wanted to ask one question before we vote. Sure. You said 32% of the members are on welfare. Is that the families that you serve, or
that's your population
in the county? Okay. And this program itself, the examples that you're talking about are all from within the county. This is just within Lapeer County.
This program is only in Lapeer County.
Okay.
There's no other program like it. We created it because we needed something to keep kids out of public court and keep that child care cost down.
It sounds like an excellent program. It's definitely needed.
It's, to be honest, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it sounds unbelievable.
It is amazing. That and the Citizens Probation Council, it made a smart move to move it under. I can't believe how many kids came back after Citizens Probation Council said, "You saved my life." They got clean, they got them a GED. I had one young man, he wanted to be a aerospace technology or something. He dropped out of school. He got caught marijuana, you know what? So I sent him to Michigan Works to get tested, and they called me, he blew doors. He was super smart. And so they wanted to work with him a little bit before he got his GED on his math to see if he couldn't get this $2,500 scholarship. Well, he didn't get it. He got caught with marijuana again. I said, please send him back. They sent him back. He got a job at a company that paid for his college through this technical engineering thing. They paid for their college, and they hired him for the time because he was so smart and so good that he's kind of my success story.
Makes it all worth it.
That one, and I had a young lady I was working with that was pregnant. We were doing supervised visits, and she wasn't a good mom. She was on drugs. She let me adopt the baby out to a family from our church, and I literally went to her house the day of the adoption, threw the stones at the window to get her to come out, and took her in pajamas to the courts to get her to a better life.
Great.
Simple question. We're providing matching funds that are matched by the schools for this. Is there grant money involved as well?
Yeah, United Way usually puts in about $5,000 in that. And it's not actually matching funds. We just contract with them, whatever isn't covered, they have to pay. So I think the contracts are like $43,000 or something.
So they're a lot more than we need.
We've been successful of getting other funding and stuff, so they haven't had to pay that much. So.
All right, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried.
The other thing I would like to offer is, I was a commissioner for 30 years. I think you guys ever need any help questions, just run something by me. I'm more than willing to help. This county was my baby for a long time. I served on more committees than any other commissioner. I was on a board of directors for 7 years. I was chair of the National Association of County indoor air quality control. And so if you ever need me, want me to, whatever, you
Right,
can call.
I knew you looked familiar because all your photos are all in the hallway upstairs.
Yeah. That's like my So, anyway.
Thank you so much.
If you need anything, let me know.
Appreciate it.
Gary, you wanted my cell number? If anybody wants my cell number, I can give it to you. It's 810-955.
You're brave.
That's okay. The kind number usually is transferred right to my cell number, so you can call that too. If it falls off, then I put it back on, but I'll call you right back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, brings us to number 5, mental health. We have a request to approve the final fiscal year 2022 to 23 appropriation transfer.
This is the third and final appropriation transfer for CMH funding. So it's what was budgeted for CMH funding in this fiscal year.
With a motion,
I'll move it. I get on support.
any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Now we have B, request to approve the budget amendment. And the clerk, does that require a roll call vote to amend the budget?
You want one?
Do we have a motion for that? Anything to add?
Well, I'm happy to go through the entire amendment. If you have specific questions, I know 3 of you have seen this at the April CMH board meeting in detail, but if others have questions, or if you'd like me to walk through it, I will. What's your pleasure?
Anybody ever have a question?
I would move it so we don't have to hear more.
I'll support that.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried.
I certainly could have made a long meeting even longer.
Yeah. Okay, brings us to item number 6, administration, BOC finance, request to authorize payment to Shipman Fournier for labor services through July 31st, 2023.
Chairman, I'll move that, we take care of that amount, it's $1,710 for labor-related services rendered through July 31st.
I'll support that. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, that brings us to old business. Number 7, emergency management, request to accept the Homeland Security Grant for fiscal year 2022. And that Lapeer County be fiduciary agent for the District Health Department. Number 2, and authorize the chairman to sign said agreement. If I'm not mistaken, this is the same grant that was voted down at the last committee.
Last meeting, you were absent, I wrote last time. And since I made the motion previously, I'll renew that motion. I'll move to accept the Homeland Security Grant for fiscal year 2022 and Lapeer County fiduciary agent for the District Health Department and authorize the chairman to sign said agreement. Support.
And also, you need to adopt the resolution that is required for the grant.
Where's that
It's in
It's in
the,
there, yeah, it was in the last one.
it's in the packet.
at? Okay, you want that as separate vote or something?
It can be part of this vote.
And accept the resolution.
Is the resolution binding to item number 7? The grant? Okay, so if we
Part
vote,
of the package.
so if we vote in favor of the grant, we have to vote in favor of the resolution. If we vote down the grant, we have to vote down the resolution.
The resolution is a part of the grant.
Okay, so we have a motion to support. This brings us to discussion. So the reason this was voted down, in my opinion, and I'm not so concerned about strings attached as based on the other commissioners. At some point in government, we have to stop taking money, free money, because for the sake that it's free. And if you look at the federal government and the way how they go into debt every single year after year after year, we wonder how are we increasing this national debt every single year? You've got elected politicians that approve of a budget that they know that they don't have the revenue for the following year. So what do they have to do? They have to go into debt. raise the debt ceiling. And this, the same thing is with the state. Just because it's free doesn't make it good. Now, I know we have an emergency coordinator position that's funded almost 50%, maybe my numbers are off, 30 to 40% of her wages funded through a grant. That's an important position. Without that grant, that position can't be paid for. Now, with the lights, I think this is for $75,000 for emergency lights. Is that what we're talking? 58,000, okay. So what I've, in my conversations, you know, when you abide by this grant, you're forced to buy this product through an approved vendor, whether it be through the state, whether it be through the federal government. And guess what? They cost 25 to 30% more than you can go and buy the same hardware over at the Home Depot or at a local hardware store and support a local business. Now, if you divide $58,000 amongst the fire departments, which somebody can correct me, we're like 13, 14 fire departments we're talking about, 15, thank you. Divide that number out, we're talking roughly 3,000 or 4,000 out of the calculator in front of me. And by state statute, the townships are responsible to fund their fire departments and make sure that their fire departments have what they need. Now, I know for a fact that certain townships, we've got 18 townships in the county, they got anywhere between $100,000 and almost $900,000 in ARPA money, which goes for infrastructure, things like that. Why not ask your townships to provide $2,500 for those lights versus just taking this money just for the simple fact that it's free? And again, just because it's free doesn't mean that it's good. And we're in this position, they've taken away local control because we farmed out this, okay, well, we'll allow you to take the control away from us, and then we're going to take your tax money and give it back to you at a reduced rate. And now you have to spend 2 days of labor on your employee to write the grants out just to get the money back. It's ours to begin with. And I know that we can't get rid of all grants, and I'm not in favor of that. As we've proved to you thus far, we've approved 2 or 3 grants already. But when you have townships who have money, quite a bit of money, and they're looking for places to spend it, they can't find places to spend it. And then there's the misconception of, if we don't spend it, then somebody else will. That, corrections, we just voted to give back $30,000 to the state of Michigan because we couldn't spend it. Now, we could have found somewhere to, I don't know, wallpaper the corrections room or put new carpet in or something like that, but that wouldn't be fiscally responsible. So just because we don't approve of it doesn't mean, just because we're not approving of the money doesn't mean we're not in favor of what you're doing. But if the money's somewhere else and it's your township's responsibility for scene lighting, then I think, you know, my position is that you go to that township. From my perspective, it's the same concept. If I have a leaky roof in my house, I've got water pouring in, my subfloor is rotting out, but yet I'm running over to Walmart and buying a big screen TV, I'm being financially irresponsible. And our job as elected commissioners is to be conservative and to be responsible with the budget and any money, whether it's county money or whether it's been funneled through us. And so that's what I want everyone to understand. We're not against grants. We're not against emergency department. We're against local control being taken away by a higher entity, which is the state and federal government. Now, I don't want to get into a debate. I mean, we could talk about this for hours and hours, but I just want everybody to know that the townships have quite a bit of money for this, and it would seem responsible that the township would do that. And on top of it, you're gonna, instead of spending $58,000 and having our grant writer, whoever it is, tied up doing that, we can get it from your township, go over to the Home Depot or a local place, support a local business where local people work, and buy that same quality scene lighting for a discounted rate. And I think there's multiple reasons to make that decision. Again, with the emergency director, if we cut out a grant, okay, well, now we can't pay for her position. That's a no. We're not going to do that. To me, that would be irresponsible. But when there's funds available, plenty of funds at the township's responsibility is to make sure that their fire departments have everything that they need. I know a gentleman had spoke about the increase in costs of fire trucks, and we've got issues all over the place from COVID, and we can spend hours on that too. And we're doing the best job that we can, but we want to be fiscally responsible. And that's my opinion and discussion on that. So, if anybody else has any comments on that? Commissioner Hall. Okay.
I don't disagree philosophically with where the chairman is coming from. I too am deeply concerned about federal irresponsibility on debt and driving our grandchildren into the ditch because of federal action. But what we're faced with here is a very specific question of a particular grant to our local fire departments. And I appreciate Chief Nass speaking out because granted, the townships have some money to market, but they have a tremendous burden. Fire department operations are exceptionally expensive. And we're relying on volunteers. The good graces of those volunteers that go forward, volunteer their time, in some cases risk their lives. And I want to make sure we support them as much as we can. Granted, some townships have more money than other townships. I represent a large number of townships that have the rural area of the county. Burlington Township, which is my district, is the smallest and least prosperous township in the county in terms of the governmental budget. They've got to run a fire department. And they don't have very much money at all in terms of their property tax revenue, their state share revenue, and their ARPA funds, just because they're a very low population, low tax community. Much as I hate it, the regulations are everywhere. And the ARPA money, I asked our financial director to send me the regulations from the feds on the ARPA money, the $17 million we've got, and the money the townships have. She sent me this, which is only half of it. My printer ran out of paper. Printing this thing, I mean, the regulations are voluminous. And my concern is if we get into these grant issues, we can find a reason to turn on every grant. And we do not want to is double tax our constituents because they're paying the taxes and incurring debt for the federal government and the state government and our governments. And so if we say we're not taking federal or state money, we're giving away their tax money, and we're saying instead we're going to take it out of other tax money for net loss. So anyway, it's a complicated philosophical issue, and like you say, we could debate this thing for months, but I think there are two very legitimate points of view on this commission, and it's going to be a challenge to work our way through it. But I think in the short run, this particular grant is beneficial and will give some small assistance to these volunteer fire departments.
Okay, any further discussion?
I agree philosophically, like Commissioner Howell just indicated that, this grant money, we pay the freight for this. The government doesn't have money. The government takes money from us. They print money that they don't have out of thin air and run our deficits up. We're over $32 trillion in fiscal operating debt and over $210 trillion in unfunded liabilities. At a federal government level, and yeah, it's got to stop somewhere. But this is money that we paid in as taxpayers, and if we can get it back in our hands and to the people that it rightfully belongs to, which are citizens that paid the freight on this, I have a problem with that. I read through the grant application and the resolution. It's long, boring, and tedious. I wasn't here. I was on vacation when this came up the first time, and it failed. And last week I did make a motion to bring it back to the table for consideration. The boilerplate versions of these grants is very disturbing, and there's going to be a day someday when it'll move from just a boilerplate, suggestions on what to do with this money or choices that you can make to not have any choices, and this is what you will do. Those are mandates. That's a crack cocaine of power and politics right there. And I just think we need to use great discretion as we move forward through these grants and parse through them. It's a lot of reading for us. Everybody thinks we just show up here for 3-4 hours every other Thursday. Aside from all our committee and board assignments that we have, but we spend a lot of time at home, and I do read this stuff, and I hope everybody does. So I just going forward, I'm going to be very cognizant and aware of what's going on, what they're asking us to do, and what we're going to have to be forced to accept. Swallow this or no. And if you don't comply, they're going to come back and sue us for the money back. So But in this situation, this is pretty well pointed out, that this money is going to be used for scene lighting for the fire department. And like I say, I'm not against grants either. There's some social media discussion that tells us that everybody up here is against grants. That's wrong. It's false. And it's a lie. I think we're treating this responsibly, and that's our job. So, fiduciary obligation to the people we represent in our community is to mind the financial issues here in the county. And so I support giving this money to the fire department in this grant, in this resolution, and has there been a motion made?
Yes.
I supported it, yeah.
So we have motion and support on our record? Okay.
Yeah, and I just have, and I'm glad Chief is here. Sorry, don't kick my butt later for bringing you into this, but the LDFA board, which is the city of Lapeer's board, we do have representation on that board. And we voted to give, I think it was 100,000 or 200,000 towards a new fire apparatus, which won't be ready for, another 3 years, give or take a year. We could have given more, but the city actually gave us back, and I forgot, is it $50,000 or $100,000?
I think it was closer to 100, right?
Yep, they're gonna give the county back $100,000. So I'm gonna support this because I think they're being a good partner with us, and Mayfield and Oregon Township do not have a fire department. They contract with the city, and then the north end of Oregon actually contracts with Marathon Township Fire, or Columbia Fire, sorry. So I just wanted to explain my yes vote.
Any further comments?
I'd
Mr. Metz?
like to comment just a little bit. If this is what we're morphing into, where we're just taking every grant that comes our way and we're applying and looking for grants and finding creative ways of getting more grants from the state and federal government, why have local government? Why even have the county government? Why not just dissolve it? We'll stop paying double taxes. We'll stop paying federal taxes and state taxes and just pay it locally, or we dissolve the local government and stop that and just pay state and federal. Allow them to tell us what we need and don't need. It is this board's responsibility. The people of this county, we have a border that surrounds our county, and we have our own government here that makes decisions, and this is the exact decisions that we've been elected to make. These decisions. Yes, it sucks. There's two sides to this story, and it's sometimes hard to decide which way, where do you draw a line? Everybody says, at some point we're gonna have to stop, but nobody wants to stop. We just keep going down the same road. At some point we're gonna have to stop. At some point we're gonna have to stop. Our grandkids are gonna suffer. Our grandkids are gonna suffer, but not yet. Not yet. We're not gonna stop yet. There's two things to this, in my opinion, that happens is a mindset. If I don't ask anybody to help subsidize my family, buy groceries for my kids. I don't ask that because I don't want that. I want to choose for my own family how we go about our lives. And the income that I make, I want to keep the money that I make to be able to spend it the way I choose to spend it. But if I allow someone to start subsidizing my family, it becomes easier and easier and easier. And eventually, what's the incentive for me to go to work and do anything? Because someone else is just going to subsidize my family for me. That's the mindset that happens with this. So I do see both sides of the equation. And I know there's some townships that are poor and need help. I understand that. I know fire departments I used to be on a volunteer fire department for the Marlette Fire Department. I understand that. But also, I am about limited government. I'm about individual liberties. And I think the people in my district, when I went door to door, that was what I promoted, was limited government. And they liked that. So it's a hard situation, but again, at some point, we have to start saying no and take responsibility for ourselves and provide for ourselves in our own local. We got to keep this stuff local. And the more money we take from state and federal governments, the bigger they get. That's just how it works. If they can print it and get rid of it, they're going to do it more and more and more. Eventually, local governments, local municipalities will have less and less and less and less say. Every time government gets bigger, individuals get smaller. So I'm not against grants. I'm not against all grants, but it's our job to decide which ones are worth taking and which ones are not worth taking. So it's not a fun place to be, but I'm not in favor of this.
Just one last discussion before we vote. I'm definitely in favor of the fire departments. I'm in favor of law enforcement, but I think there's a better way to acquire funding for the lights. So Okay, further discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Howell,
Yes.
Commissioner Hagedorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton,
Yes.
Commissioner Nicely,
Yes.
Commissioner Mast,
No.
Commissioner Zender,
Yes.
Chairman Coleman.
No. Okay, motion carried. Okay, this brings us to administration and sheriff. Bid recommendation for the camera and cabling project at the sheriff's department jail. Commissioner Isley?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we move this whole bid recommendation and this whole process back to a standing committee, which is where it should have gone to begin with. So I'm gonna make a motion that this be brought back to the standing committee, either ARPA or properties where it belongs, and to address some of the concerns that I think we all have with this, and I can talk about them more during discussion, or we can talk about it in the game. So, make that motion.
Well, we need to know which committee.
I think it's best placed in the properties committee.
You're gonna use ARPA funds?
Yeah.
Because of the funds,
Correct.
so it really probably should go back to our book.
That was my thought originally, so I'll amend my my motion to make it, ask that it come back to the department committee for consideration.
Okay, any support?
I'll support that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. He brings it to number 9, wrecker and towing contracts. Bid recommendation for wrecker and towing contract for zones 1, 2, and 3, which is referred to us by the 727 full board.
Chairman, I've done a deep dive in this. I think a lot of us done a shallow dive into this issue with the record joint contracts. It was pretty enlightening, to know that there's so much angst in this war for the towing contract. So, I think it did go to an ad hoc committee that included three of the commissioners here at this up front here, and it came back. And I didn't know until just recently that there's actually 3 zones that are associated with this request. The issues regarding zone 2 and 3 have already been resolved, and so I think it's Paul's and Yates that already have that. So the big discrepancy was who was going to be awarded the zone 1 contract. So, my understanding in the beginning was this was a financial issue that we needed to take consideration because of costs. And I just learned yesterday that last year for 2022, of course, the buyers had the contract, still has the contract to this day, that the county spent $1,573 total for towing. That was our responsibility. The rest of the majority of the money that comes out of this, and I think where a lot of this comes from, is from private insurance companies. So whoever gets this contract is really after one has the abilities to have a priority on a call out to clean up an accident scene or whatever it may be, so they can charge and bill directly to the insurance company. We have no issue with that. It doesn't cost us a dime. So then I asked myself, I said, why are we even debating this? Why is this even in our forte? But it's such a small monetary amount. It's an insignificant amount. And then it really comes back to 2 questions, like the ability of the companies that are bidding it, buyers and E&L. I think they're both capable of doing it. And so, taking that aside, the last issue is why wouldn't we want to support our local businesses? I know that E&L is a local company. The owner of the company lives here in Lapeer, went to school here in Lapeer, pays taxes in Lapeer, is a good citizen in Lapeer, a volunteer, and does a lot of good things for the community. The other person bidding it has no presence in this community other than this is a satellite location for their office in Rochester or Auburn Hills, wherever it is down there. So, that's my reason for bringing this up, because I would like to make a motion that, let me find the motion, that we approve the, I gotta find it.
Very last page of the packet.
Yeah, that's right, it was. That there's 3 requests here: a motion to pursuant to RFP process and subsequent review of submitted bids to accept the award for towing and wrecking services for zone 1 as follows. Zone 2 and 3 we already talked. If Paul's and Yates already has that, I think that's something that we just leave that alone. But I believe that we ought to award the contract for zone 1 to E&L Towing.
Clarification, at what meeting did you make the motion to
Last full board meeting. We made a motion to bring it back here
To bring it back, yes, sir,
with,
but,
with authority to act.
yes, sir, I'm not disagreeing with that. You keep stating that a towing company has already been awarded.
No, what, if you don't mind,
Go ahead.
what I think he's trying to say is, if the contract expired on January 1st. So, because currently there is no contract, it was status quo. So in the southeast, it's Paul's, in the north, it's Yates, and central, it's Byers, because they had it before. So I don't think he's saying that
Okay.
we've ever awarded it. It's
Okay.
just been keeping the
Status quo. So this motion is going to award for the new going forward contract. So we
Yes.
need to go on record for more than just zone
I'm
one.
in my motion that we award zone 1 to E and L. We award zone, I don't know which one has Yates or Falls has zone 2 or 3, but, you know, Brad?
You have the map right in front of you?
Yeah, I do, but it doesn't say. It just
Right,
says
but I
those
can tell you,
zones are-
Yates is gonna be 3 and Paul's is gonna be 2.
So, and award the zone 3 to Yates and Falls will be awarded to zone 2.
So E and O for zone 1,
Yes.
and Yates for zone 3.
Yates for zone 3, Falls for zone 2.
Okay, motion. We clear on the motion? Okay. Good support?
I'll support it.
Any further discussion? I would like to make a comment on this with, going forward with the bids. The last meeting that I was at, I missed the last meeting, the meeting before, we had a hard time in figuring out how each company bid. Some companies bid differently with certain miles. I think it's appropriate if the county, since we're the ones offering the contract, we're the ones assuming some liability, like you said, maybe we're really being charged $1,000 for counties. Right, but we're giving this contract awards this company probably, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in towing, because there's accidents all the time. But we need to come up with a standard platform of, okay, this is how you're going to bid the project. This is how you're gonna bid zone 1, this is how you're gonna bid zone 2, zone 3. That way we can arrive at a consensus and go, okay, this, we're looking at apples to apples, and we can tell, which company's actually cheaper, because the way we were getting the information before, one company bid it this way, one company bid it that way, and it's nearly impossible to arrive at a clear conclusion, to try to get the taxpayers to save them the most amount of money. We have no idea until we enter into a contract and go through a whole year of, okay, how do these invoices end up in the long run? So I think it would be appropriate to come up with a model. This is how you're going to bid these projects. We don't leave it up to them. This is what we're offering.
The follow-up is the second part of the motion is that something's going to be reviewed and brought back. So just to clarify, there's more work to be done before it's finalized. Am I correct?
No, this is fine.
And
We're voting
further that
on
the
this. We have
written
authority to act today, right?
Yes, yeah, that was your motion
Right.
2 weeks ago, was to give us authority to act today.
Yeah, you all, yeah.
Yes, sir.
But the wording in this motion that was prepared is that, and further, a written contract be prepared by administration and reviewed by the prosecuting attorney and brought back to the next committee of the whole meeting and/or regular board meeting with authority to act once it's ready.
So we need,
Apparently, there's still some work to be done on the contract that you have to approve.
I wasn't aware of that, but I do remember seeing that. So I can amend my motion to add that referred from the 7/20, January, or July 27th, full board meeting authority to act on the matter, to come back to the
Any
prosecutor for further review and draft of the motion and
so we can have the prosecutor look at it the next 2 weeks and then make a final decision at the next full board. Okay.
So they want the contracts to be drawn up to who you awarded it to
Yeah.
and then reviewed.
makes sense.
Okay. We have a motion and support. Discussion, any further discussion?
Not directly on this, because I agree with what the motion is. But I think back to your point, Mr. Chairman, a lot of what we're dealing with here is because of the very inexact request for proposal we started with. I think we ought to give a direction to whomever to draft a model request for proposal and a model contract, so that we don't have to go back and try to negotiate what they intended in the proposal. If they see a contract up front, and they know they're bidding on that contract.
So are you suggesting that we just rebid this and
No, I don't
contract
know
it
if I'm
out?
hoping this kind
Okay,
of works
okay.
again right now, but, because we're already, 8 months into the new year.
Correct.
Contract. I'm just saying that I think we ought to make sure that going forward, we have a request for proposal we all agree on, and a contract. So what happens? When the company gets it, there's no concern, I'm gonna have to sign this contract when I bid this money. So right now, we gotta negotiate this thing after the fact.
So we're gonna approve of it the way it's been presented to us already. Is this a year-long contract?
I haven't
Does anybody
seen
know?
the paperwork.
3-year contract, we're
3
already 8 months into.
Is it a fiscal year contract or does it start?
calendar?
Calendar, okay, so Jan.
Mr. Chair, I'm not a person from the public asking, they would be allowed to speak to this subject, they're a party involved.
Anybody have any objections to that? Sure.
Are both sides gonna speak? I mean,
Two spoke last meeting.
I don't know if anybody else.
Will this make it even? We don't wanna make it, excuse me, we don't wanna make it one-sided, allow you to speak and then not have somebody else.
Oh, I understand, I understand. That's why I asked whether somebody could speak.
I can follow up,
Okay.
Jim and I know each other very well, so he's a zealous advocate and he knows
Just
what
on
he's
both
talking
sides.
about.
We're good, go ahead, thank you.
Just briefly, I'm Jim Austin, I'm the attorney for Byron Stella. As I recall, there was an ad hoc committee put together to take a look at this, take a deep dive into this. And we haven't heard from them as a recommendation. And that troubles me because when I hear of a board of commissioners, I sit on a bunch of boards, whenever I have a committee that is given the task to bring a recommendation to the board, that's the first place I go. And I take as much solace in the fact that they're doing the work for me. And we haven't heard anything from the ad hoc committee. And that troubles me. Secondly, it troubles me that if the whole reason that it's going to be given is because it's a local company, that wasn't part of the bid. If you're gonna make that part of the bid, put it in the bid process. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to reiterate that, go ahead, I'll let you speak.
Oh. So Jim and I know, we're both attorneys, I represent Pauls and Yates Towing. And I do concur with his statement concerning the ad hoc committee. And I do believe that the ad hoc committee did speak at the last meeting. And if they, so chose to speak today, that would be fine as well. However, from what I understand, at least of the process of how this committee works, or excuse me, how this commission works, is that the ad hoc committee is not bound to report to the public on their findings. They are bound to report to the commission of their findings, and then the commission acts on their behalf. So for clarification purposes, I wanted that. Also, the contract as it's written speaks of a holistic process of different measures for awarding the contract. I believe one of which is community connection or something like that. But there are many factors in this contract that specifically go to that. Third, kind of a novel point about the contracting with the prosecutor. That's totally makes a lot of sense. And the prosecutor, of course, will have to review the contract, actually draft the contract. So the commission's going to have to pay a little money out on that. But draft the contract and then sign it with our terms that we provided. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
May I address?
Commissioners? We're just really,
Well, I'm the owner of Byers, I'd like to have the opportunity to speak.
This is out
on my behalf.
this is out of procedure, This is out of procedure, so.
But
we can't hear any more comments.
We've already gone through this.
Yeah, we've already gone through
Well, because I just, because the other, at the meeting, a lot of people
sir,
brought up.
So we're not gonna have any more discussion, I'm sorry. Commissioner Hamilton?
I was part of the ad hoc committee that looked at these contracts. And the way subcommittees work is they look at these issues, they come up with their own recommendations and bring it to the full board. But just because a committee makes a recommendation does not mean the entire board has to accept that recommendation. The board can go in a completely different direction from that. And that's the board's prerogative. So, just so the public is aware of that.
And even those that are in the ad hoc committee can change their minds too, and be supported in ad hoc and bring it to the board. And then, have more information, make a decision based on the new information contrary to what they agreed to in the ad hoc committee,
So have we voted? It's been a while, right? We've got motion and support, we're in discussion. So we're gonna vote.
Who supported it? I did not. Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carried. Okay, so there's no additional items. That brings us to our second public time. Is there anybody from the public who would like to speak during the second public time? No one wants to speak today?
I'll get you later.
Just state your name and.
My name is William Byers. I'm the owner of Byers Record Service. I just wanted to clarify a couple things that unfortunately I wasn't allowed to, I didn't have the opportunity to address the first meeting because of a prior engagement that I've been waiting for 5 months for. I want to address a couple things. You say we don't have any contact in the county. I have several employees that I employ in this county. I pay taxes to the city of Lapeer. I've been doing this for over 20 years without one written complaint. My service is tremendously, can speak for itself. Everybody else is here. At the other meeting, people were allowed to come up and talk against me. I emailed everybody on the board, and except I was told that you did not receive one. Your name was on the list, but you should have received it. And I invited you all to contact me to discuss this. I got one result. Nobody contacted me about this whatsoever. There's a huge benefit for the taxpayers of Lapeer County because my rates are so much lower. The people of Lapeer County won't be paying as much. Therefore, their insurance won't be paying as much. So all of us in the state of Michigan won't have to pay these higher rates for insurance. I don't understand why it wasn't an opportunity before the vote, if I couldn't talk, but prior to, everybody got up here and just talked against me. And they were even enticed to come up here and talk. I appreciate Mr. Zender reaching out and asking me questions. I believe he got all his answers he was looking for. I attended the ad hoc committee. I know what the recommendation is. And I've done this a lot in my career. I have a lot of contracts. I've been a lot of boards. I've been hired to go to places. And I have always seen when you have an ad hoc committee or a committee recommendation, people recommend, they take that up. I don't understand this, but I want to take the time and thank everybody in Lapeer County. I'm not going anywhere. Because obviously I won't be calling for the sheriff's department, but I'll be doing a lot of more advertising, and there will be a lot of monitoring of what's going on. So I want to thank everybody for your time, and thank you.
Thank you. Anyone from the public like to comment during the second public time?
Good morning. I had to look at the clock to make sure that it was still morning. It's been a while since I've been at one of these meetings, so it's good to see you all again. I just wanted to come up this morning and just share my shirt, Choose Freedom. because freedom works. It really does. Thank you for all you guys do. Thank you for all your hard work, because there's so many concerns and issues in our community these days. It's tough. But please remember, our Constitution was put forth years ago, and it's the greatest thing we have that can assure that freedom works. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public like to comment during the second public time?
I would just like to remind people that Gary Roy sat up there when he was still in the chair and in an open meeting laughed about the gratuities, favors, gifts that sheriff's officers got based on who they called for service per record. And I guess the problem is Mr. Byers is just deemed not to play well with others. All I can say is he should know some of us understand the system.
Anyone else in the public like to comment during the second public time? Okay, we're going to close the second public time. That brings us to commissioner reports. And if we want to start with Commissioner Hamilton.
First flying over the animal control thing, pardon the pun. But this thing, our job as commissioners is not to be a rubber stamp board. I don't know how the previous board operated, but we weren't hired to just give a rubber stamp to everything any department wanted to do. Our job is to provide oversight. Ultimately, we are responsible to the taxpayers. The buck stops with us. And I think it's completely irresponsible for us to vote on things without doing research, without asking questions. And I don't appreciate this commission getting attacked for asking questions, getting attacked by a department. It's our responsibility to the voters and people of this county to know what's going on and know what we're putting in place. The animal control department does a lot of good. This board is not against animal control, but it's our job to question things that look inappropriate or unconstitutional, just not worded right. Rachel did give us an opportunity to provide some feedback on the ordinance, which I did. I had some questions and some things that didn't look right. I did let her know that in the document online. But to get to attack this board simply for asking questions does not mean we're against the department. It's our responsibility. And people posting personal, private conversations to go after us just because they think they're under attack is wrong and shouldn't be tolerated. Another thing about the grants. Sometimes they're a necessary evil. I know inflation's out of control. People are complaining about the cost of living going up. I'll give you something to think about. It's basic economics. The more supply of something you have out there, the less it's worth. And that goes true for the dollar. For decades, the U.S. government just runs deficits and prints more and more money. So there's more and more dollars dumped out into the economy, which makes that dollar worth less and less. Now, if you don't like paying higher taxes, don't like the increased cost of goods, at some point, we have to shrink the size of government and slow down and reverse some of that overspending and the deficit spending. Because we are going to head off a cliff one of these days. It's laws of economics. This cannot continue. Now, unfortunately, we do operate under a system where, yeah, because of our budget, we do have to accept grants. But we've got to start developing a mentality that the government is not there to provide a solution to everything. Frankly, the federal government and the state government are supposed to be the smallest level of government. Your local government was supposed to be actually the bigger one because they're the closest level to the people and they're the level of government that knows the people best. does somebody, you think somebody in Lansing or in Washington DC, or roads, for example, knows that there's a pothole on Baldwin Road that needs to be fixed? No. So why are we giving them the responsibility to dole out transportation dollars? Why are we not taking care of that ourselves? So philosophically, the first time that grant came up for the lighting for the fire departments, I voted no because of the short notice in which we got it. And there were some concerns in there about, domestic terrorism and climate change. And since then, I sat down with Jeff, our emergency manager, and got my questions answered, got some things explained, and I was comfortable enough to go ahead and vote for it this time. But I just want people to stop with the mentality that the government's the solution. If you want to be able to pay less money, and we got to expect the government to shrink and not be so involved in everything. So that's all I got.
I don't disagree with you, Bill, as far as the federal money and state money, but the reality is you cannot not take the federal money. It's all of our taxpayers' money anyway. We pay state and federal taxes. The total revenue for Suncrest, which is our adult nursing home, the total revenue for that is $26,400,064, whatever. 26.5, close enough. The federal revenue is $25 million. There's no way I'm going to one of those families and saying, we're going to shut this down because we're not taking the money. Those people deserve the care. They paid all their lives into the system. It's great to say that we won't take any federal money, but it's not doable, guys. It's more than our annual budget. Time you pay the courts and the police, you won't have anything. So I've sat here and I've listened to everybody in the animal control ordinance. It was never about the ordinance. It was pretty clear. She was asking for your feedback. And 2 commissioners gave it to her. Nobody else did. The other commissioners went on a text, which I guess we'll find out if it was an opens meeting violation or not. It sure looked like it. Saying he's going to vote no just on this one issue. Why wouldn't you call her? Why wouldn't you give her a chance?
You needed to go to committee. And that's the only reason why I didn't respond to it, Brian. And your accusation of Open Meetings Act, have you done any due diligence in yourself on that?
Yes, I did.
No, you haven't, because Shipman and our attorneys, our labor attorney, has already been consulted on this, and there is no open meetings violations. But you guys keep on pumping that. Warren Buffett said, you find yourself in a hole, you need to quit digging. And that includes you and your daughter. I'm sorry. You guys screwed up. You had no right to share that. It was just a comment that I made. I wasn't deliberating. Now, if you want to talk about deliberation, let's talk about the 2 incidents that I can recall upstairs when you were deliberating with us over 2 issues. One had to do with the prosecuting attorney's pay, and the other one had to do with, and I would have supported it either way, with you taking control of animals that were confiscated in Hadley that were abused, cattle, and you took care of them. That's a great thing to do. But aside from that, that was deliberation. That's an Open Meetings Violation Act right there, hands down. And you want pot, meat, kettle. I'm sorry. You're wrong, Brian. And it was wrong for you to do that. It was wrong for you to share it in the public. It was wrong for your daughter to share it in the public.
then I'm gonna have social media. The grant issue, nursing home, obviously, we cannot do without federal money. It is our money. But the problem is, if it is our money, why can't we do with it what we please? Why is there strings attached to it? If it is really truly our money in the first place, why can't we do with it what we want? They have no right to take it from us and then turn around and give it to us under certain circumstances. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. If it's our money, let us do with it what we want. What we want. If we find ourselves in a place like this with the nursing home where we're taking more federal money to take care of our elderly than we are locally, then the federal government has the right to come in and shut them down, lock them up, isolate them, not let family members come in. That's the slippery slope that you end up going down by taking unlimited grant money from everywhere with these kinds of mandates and strings attached to it. I'm not against grants. I've said that over and over. We are not. And yes, absolutely, it is our money. My problem with it is, the majority of my problem is that the strings that are attached to it and the mindset that it creates. Over time, we have now morphed into a society that demands a handout rather than trying to figure out a way to do it ourselves. The animal control thing, I think this thing is gone way too far. It should have never gotten to this place. You can't fight darkness with darkness. Somebody has to build a bridge to correct things. And obviously I know that if I make mistakes, I should apologize for them, fully accepting that there's going to be repercussions for my mistakes, even though there's grace and forgiveness extended sometimes. So somewhere this blunder that has happened, and I'm sure there's blunder everywhere. Everybody makes mistakes. That's not the issue. It's what we do when we make mistakes that becomes the issue. So I hope this thing can be resolved in a decent and dignified manner. So that's all I have. I thank everybody for coming out today and voicing their concerns, both sides of this issue. Sorry it became an issue. Hopefully it will never become an issue again.
I just want to touch on a few things that Commissioner Zender had talked about, Suncrest, which your figures are accurate. We're not alleging that we want to turn down all grants. I would never turn down a grant that would put elderly people, handicapped people at a disadvantage out in the public. That's not, I don't know what we ever came across. We've obviously approved how many grants today. We've approved all of the grants that have been proposed today. And only 2 of us have voted no.
Literally the first grant we've ever voted down.
Yeah, and so I just want, to say that we're against grants, it's not a fair statement. Now, Moses, if you can correct me, we have about $117 million budget, roughly. We take around $24 million in grants. Now, I did the math on it, and some people think, oh, you're crazy. There's 35,000 taxable properties in the county, including businesses, whatever households. It's $685 a year. So for $57 a month, I'm not proposing to raise property taxes, we could be free of the federal and state government and all the grants and stop begging for money. Now, I know a lot of people, $57 a month is a lot of money, but I just want to keep it in perspective on what we're selling ourselves out for. $57 a month? And those are just the taxable properties. And if you break it down to everybody, if everybody had taxable property, there's 88,000 people in the county, 70,000 adults who work. You're talking $30 a month. For $30 a month, we're just begging. And I'm not saying we turn them all down, but at some point, we have to start to say no. And in my opinion, the fire department grant, the townships, go to your townships and ask them. Hey, I might get some hate emails from townships. How dare you have the fire departments come and ask us for $4,500 for lights? Actually, you're probably going to save some money and buy them at the Home Depot for $3,200. So, in light of the text messages, they were private conversations. I'm not going to slam anybody's character. I'm deeply disappointed in the whole thing. It was a private conversation. I asked a procedural question, which was well within my purview to do so. To ask the prosecutor to come in, to give his opinion on the constitutional rights violations, and it turned into what it did. And again, it should have never been given to somebody else. The 5 guys on there and commissioners under, I didn't include you on it because your daughter's department had it. In my opinion, it was a conflict of interest. So it wasn't anything against your character. We've gotten along thus far. I have nothing against you. And then Commissioner Howell, me and Commissioner Howell serve the same district. Commissioner Howell has 45, 50 years in law. I know what his response is going to be. Yes, let's cover our butts. So that's just our position on it. And it's unfortunate that facts have been misstated online, taken out of context. We've had a conversation with Moses, our administrator, and our emergency coordinator. We respect all the positions. Emergency coordinator position is new. We didn't have all the facts on that. Certain statements were made. And as someone in the public stated earlier today, is everyone willing to bring their cell phones up and put them on so everybody can read every single conversation between you and your friends and your family members, your loved ones, people you don't like? It's not a fair statement. And it was put in the paper that they were statements from the board. Those were not public statements. Those were a private conversation that should have never leaked out to the public. So that's all I have.
I'm not going to do any more deep dive into the issue with animal control. I think I made my point. I'll make a point on that we support the vicious animal, the vicious dog ordinance change. She came to us, Rachel came to us with that. People pleaded with us in the audience, and we said, yes, that needs to be done. I wholeheartedly agree. I was there when the guy was killed over there in Metamora from the dog attack, the jogger. And it was a gruesome sight. And I happened to be driving by there, and I was redirecting around it, but I happened to see what was going on. And it's bad. We need to address that. I'm not doubting that, but it wasn't the need to open up the whole ordinance and change it, and then make a comment that I am concerned with freedoms and liberties being violated and our Fourth Amendment rights to unreasonable search and seizure. Those are my concerns. I just brought those up. I says, I'm concerned about this. This is a non-starter for me. However, I didn't comment anymore on that because my whole intention was to ask that this be brought to a committee, standing committee, which is where it should have gone to begin with. Passing it back and forth to the prosecutor a number of times. We see the final, this maybe wasn't the final draft because I don't know that it was or not. We'd have to ask John. But, I had problems with some of the language that was in there that I seen as infringement. I ran as a constitutional conservative to protect the freedoms and liberties and the constitutional rights of us first and foremost. I don't care what everybody else thinks about, giving somebody a special power to be able to violate those rights. I will never be in favor of that. My freedom and liberty are not for sale, and I don't think anybody would want to sell their freedom and liberty. These are things that millions of people have died and fought for the last 247 years of our country. And, I stand by that, so, that's really all I have to say about that. It kind of goes, it parlays into the discussion about grants too. I'm not opposed to grants, but, like I said, it's the crack cocaine of policy and influence now, because once you start getting used to that money, it becomes a time when you can't say no anymore. Then it becomes a problem for all of us. We're going to debt. I'm doing this not for me. I'm doing this for my kids and my grandkids, and your kids and your grandkids too. If you don't want me here, vote me out. I had a good life before this, and I'll have a good life going forward. I really could care less. I want to be here because I want to make a difference, and I think the only way that I can make a difference is at the local level. That's why I'm doing this for my kids and my grandkids, your kids and your grandkids. And so I have concerns, and when it comes to constitutional issues and freedoms and liberties being violated or trampled on or infringed, I have a problem with that, and I will stand up for that because I'm standing up for you. That's really all I need to say. Thank you.
Moses, Jackie, and I attended the Lapeer County Community Collaborative. The Kiwanis Club is starting work on a all-inclusive playground. And then Jackie and I attended the Historic Courthouse Committee meeting. Do you have one or two copies of the H2A?
One.
Okay, Jackie has one copy in her office. I think you all should stop by and look at it. Of all the things that are wrong with the Historic Courthouse. And then as far as what has transpired over the last week, I've spoken to those of you that I've needed to spoke to. And so that's what I have to say.
First, recycling and solid waste. We had a meeting on August 3rd with the administration folks, commissioners, and representatives from Genesee County Metropolitan Planning Commission. When I was in the legislature, I was able to sponsor a series of bills to encourage communities to do recycling planning. And most importantly, we got money appropriated so that our county will get 60,000 plus an extra 10 if we cooperate with the counties, and that'll be an ongoing basis over the years. In the past, we had to dig this money out of our own taxpayers' pockets locally. This money is being paid by the taxpayers at the state level. We want it to spend here in Lapeer County. We've got to do the plan. In any case, we had a very productive meeting. We've worked with Genesee County in the past because we have a region of Shiawassee, Genesee, and Lapeer that has been in existence for many years for exactly this kind of planning. So anyway, it was a productive meeting. The biggest frustration I think we all felt was the bureaucratic uncertainty at the state level. The folks at Eagle, which is the former DEQ, have been unable to give us exact deadlines, exact points at which we need to make a decision. So the most important thing is we want everybody to know that we are working on recycling and solid waste planning for the county. It's an inexact date until the state gives us more direction. It's an encouraging thing. Going to the big controversy today, I appreciate the board assigning, the board assigning the animal control ordinance to my committee. I think we need to lower the temperature dramatically on this. It's unfortunate that it's come about the way it has today with so much contention. It's unnecessary that it happened this way. Should have gone to a standing committee in the first place. We can, as a subcommittee, work with the prosecutor, work with the animal control department. Because we have two different things going on. One is the issue that some of our Deerfield residents brought forward that the chairman and I share because it's a Deerfield issue in particular. And of course, Commissioner Isaac pointed out the even worse incident they had in his area. But we've got to deal with the vicious dog ordinance, vicious dog situation in the county, and we intend to do that. So my thought is on my committee, we're going to deal with that first and foremost. We have an obligation to deal with that issue. There's lots of other larger issues, constitutional issues. We're going to take our time looking into those and make sure we're doing the right thing. So that's what I anticipated, the two-step process. And frankly, I don't intend for it to come back to the Board of Commissioners until the committee has worked out a reasonable proposal. Because right now we've been getting these drafts, which are fine. The animal control people talk about it, the prosecutor talks about it, but we've not really been in the loop. We just sent a document. And that's a very awkward way to try to make decisions. So I think this will be a much better process where we stay in contact and we give you a draft after the subcommittee of the board has really read it carefully and has a proposal and can explain it as to why it's desirable. So anyway, that's our intention. Thank you.
Okay, I have one final comment. I want to keep this in perspective for people when we talk about limited government and growing bureaucracies. In 1968, Lapeer County had 23 board of commissioners up here. Can you imagine seeing 23 commissioners up here? Population is around 88,000 today, and roughly probably 60,000 in 1962 or 68. Today you have 11,000 people. You need, one commissioner represents 11,000 people. In 1968, one commissioner represented 2,500 people. Don't you think you need more representation at the local level? And that's what we're talking about. They're taking away local control. So that's all I have. Need one more motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Support. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed. Meeting adjourned.